Here. Big day for Texas football as well. Steve Sarkisian's Longhorns are going to hit the field this morning for the first week of spring practice. It will include their first practice this morning. They'll also practice Wednesday and Friday. Program's also going to host their pro day this Thursday afternoon for all draft-eligible players, including Bijan Robinson. He confirmed yesterday, by the way, after his workout at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, that he will not be working out here in Austin. He's just going to be on hand to visit with teams and support his teammates. Why would he? Bijan backed up his status as the top running back in the 2023 draft class, posting a 4.46 in the 40-yard dash yesterday. Fellow Longhorn Roschon Johnson ran 4.58. Texas A&M's Devin Achane ran the fastest timer among the running backs at 4.32. That's the fourth fastest time all time for a running back in Indianapolis. Not a good weekend for the Texas baseball team out in Fullerton, California. Their early season struggles continued. Horns dropped 2 out of 3 to Cal State Fullerton, including a gut punch 11th inning walk-off loss in yesterday's rubber game. They fall to 4-7, had a one-run lead in the top of the 10th, or in the 10th inning, 4-3 with a chance to close it out. Could not do so. Fullerton rallied to tie it and then rallied to win it in the 11th. No struggle for the Texas women's softball team, 9th-ranked team in the land, have won 9 in a row. They beat Louisiana 8-3 at McCombs Field. Outside of the 40 acres, how about Austin FC? They earned their first 3 points of the season with a 1-0 win over FC Montreal on Saturday night. Maxi Urruti broke a scoreless tie with a nifty goal late in the second half to lift the home side and electrify a jam-packed crowd at Q2 Stadium. And there you go. That is a weekend for you right there. Congratulations to Vic Schaefer and the Texas women, Big 12 champs. Had a chance to close that out last week, but stumbled to Baylor. But still, they'll be the number 1 seed at the Big 12 tournament. And the Texas men, tremendous performance on Saturday at the Moody Center to wrap it up. You can question whether Kansas was fully locked in based on, didn't have a lot to play for. But they played their starters. They played their best players. Jalen Wilson, the conference's best player, played great. And Longhorns did a great job, and that's the kind of performance, 40 minutes of good basketball on both ends, it's going to take as they move forward, because they'll head to Kansas City as the 2 seed in the toughest conference in college basketball.
Well, yeah, that was an all-around fantastic performance right from the beginning. I mean, they came out fired up. They ended fired up. They held a really good basketball team and defended them really, really well. And that was a Kansas team that wanted to win. They wanted to keep their number 1 seed. They weren't messing around. They played hard. They just got out hustled and got out muscled.
And they missed a lot. I mean, they were ice cold. They were ice cold. They had some good looks at the bucket in that first half, even though Texas was playing great defense. I thought early in the game, we kind of have wondered where Dylan Mitchell has gone, the young freshman. I thought early in the game, his defensive pressure on Grady Dick was really good. He was doing a great job.
Yeah, because Grady's been having a pretty good job towards the middle and end of the season.
Well, we talked about it when Texas played at Lawrence, that, man, Jalen Wilson's the best player in this conference. He's going to get his. He's a silky smooth 6'8" swing that can knock it down from outside and play inside. He can score at all 3 levels, and he's going to get his. But you can't let the other guys beat you. And when they played in Lawrence, Grady Dick had a huge game. DeJuan Harris, the point guard, had a huge game up in Lawrence. You had Yesapu and some guys off the bench. You have to control those guys if you're going to beat Kansas. And I thought Rodney Terry and his staff and the team did a great job of executing that game plan. Jalen Wilson, got his. He played great. He was the only Jayhawk, though, in double figures. The rest of the defense and the effort there was outstanding. After getting hammered on the boards at TCU on Wednesday.
They out-rebounded.
They out-rebounded Kansas. And
just by a couple, but that's okay.
And you know what? And, Tyrese Hunter. If you're looking for positives headed into March, and there are plenty with the Longhorns, there are certainly question marks, but, man, Tyrese Hunter has really found his groove. He's had 3 or 4 really good games in a row, and he had great body language in this game on Saturday. He was really just looking confident. His stroke is back, and knocking down the outside shots, and obviously he and Jabari Rice were the dynamic duo in the backcourt, because Marcus Carr, his shooting woes and struggles continue, but he didn't shoot as much as he normally does.
That right there would have got you a win versus TC, that effort.
Yeah, well, that's the deal. Can you bottle that? Because that performance will beat just about anybody in the country. Because Kansas, I think, wherever you have them ranked, Houston won again yesterday at the buzzer. Alabama's there. How about the Aggies, by the way? Aggies have been on an unbelievable streak. They beat Alabama, the second-ranked team in the country.
Their backcourt's playing really well, too, right now.
And their defense for Buzz Williams is playing great. So, yeah, Texas and Texas A&M head to the conference tournament section ahead of the big dance, feeling really good about their basketball teams. But that was, it's what you say with the coach. Can you bottle that 40 minutes? That 40 minutes of intensity, focus, But here's the problem for the Longhorns, Buck. That's their last game at the Moody Center, right? The Mood, the new arena, has been as advertised. It's become a home court advantage for the Longhorns. They've lost one game all year long on that floor. They play great in that building. They won't play in that building again.
No.
So, they honor the seniors, and they've got to be able to take that type of effort and bring their own intensity.
Yeah, that's all you can do is play your guts out in the last game and your last home game, and hopefully, like you say, can carry that with you for a while. So
he's got to figure out how to play with that level of intensity outside of that building. I mean, that really, because you're not playing there again.
Or you got to treat this. This is not just a tune-up coming up. I mean, you got to try for a tournament championship now. I mean, this group can't have like a setback. They have to continue to get better every time they take the court. I mean, those are the performances that you look for, like in a last game. That thing could go, either way, and it went the right way in all phases, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was everything you could have asked for, and the Longhorns.
And from the fans too. I mean, from the fans' perspective, I know. You can't bottle them up and always take a huge crowd with you, but the ones that are going to follow this group, whether it's to the tournament or to the NCAA tournament, I mean, you got a nice gathering. That was a good performance. That makes you want to follow right there.
I don't know because like if you go back to last year's tournament, and remember the tournament seeding committee, who from the NCAA who picked the field of 64. Last year, if you go back and look at it, they didn't pay much attention to the conference tournaments at all. I mean, nothing really shifted off of conference tournaments. It was almost like it was entirely based on the regular season, which I think is the right way to do it. I mean, you play 3 months of basketball for a reason.
Well, this conference is going to get a real good peak. That.
I mean, I do think the win on Saturday, which gives the Longhorns their 11th Quad 1 win, and we've tried to explain to you all year long how they use that quad system, Quad 1 through 4. The Longhorns are second in the nation, behind only Kansas in Quad 1 wins. They're 11-8 in Quad 1 games this year. Kansas is 15-6. Baylor has also got 11 wins. They're 11-9 in Quad 1 games. Those three teams have more Quad 1 wins than any teams in the country, and Kansas by a pretty wide margin, which is, I think, when it's all said and done, Kansas may end up being the number 1 seed in the tournament. Houston will have an argument, but if you look at Houston's, because of the conference they play in, their Quad 1 wins, they don't have a lot. They don't have many at all, actually. They survived Memphis yesterday, but they may be the number 1 team. I don't know. Alabama, Kansas. Once you're a 1 seed, you're a 1 seed.
Yeah, I mean, if they stay 1, they'll be.
But I think Texas.
Get a 1.
I think that win Saturday locks Texas up into a 2 seed. I really do.
I do too.
Regardless of what happens in Kansas City.
I don't think you can lose the first game. I don't think you can go to Kansas City and
I
lose.
do. Well, that's why I say I think if you go back to last year, they didn't pay much attention to what went on in these conference tournaments. They really didn't. I mean, they just nothing moved. I mean, what was the.
I'll just say this: there won't be any excuse for losing in Kansas City in your first game.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll hurt you. Big picture. That's just my opinion. I could be dead wrong. I just think based on history now, using this quad, this net system that they use, it's going to be based on what's in the books now. These conference tournaments are TV revenue, TV drive, money drivers. We know that. But, I think Kansas locks in as a 1, and I think Texas is going to be a 2, and I think, Baylor's a team that maybe locks in as a 2 as well, or just on that 2-3 cut line. I mean, I think whoever won the regular season Big 12 was going to be a 1 seed out of this conference, and that's Kansas. Texas finishes 2, so they're going to be 2. That's why I felt like Saturday was critical, because if they had lost that game and, they fell all the way to the 4, the 4 seed in this tournament, which is possible, if Baylor and K-State had won games on Saturday, instead they not only lock up the 2, they do it emphatically over number 1. I think that puts them firmly on the 2 line, regardless of what happens in Kansas City. But obviously, as you said, you'd like to go to Kansas City and perform well, win a game or 2, and get to 25 wins would be a great goal. Longhorns sitting at 23 right now. They're going to play Thursday evening. We know that's going to be their first game at the Big 12 tournament, Thursday evening, and it'll be between the winner of the Oklahoma State-Texas Tech game, and we've got drama from Texas Tech. How about Texas Tech suspending their basketball coach, Mark Adams, for something we'll get into coming up? He got into we'll get to the details of that Texas Tech situation, but it's not pretty in Lubbock. Some suggesting that Mark Adams may have coached his last game there, which is based on what's happened here with Chris Beard, and now Texas Tech looks like it might be open.
Yeah, there's some bad stuff in the water there.
Not good. But we'll get to it. But that's where the Longhorns are, and I think they're in a good place right now. They can play that style of basketball. They're going to be in a good situation. So we'll talk plenty of hoops this morning. Texas women, a championship. Texas men finished resoundingly in a really strong season through a lot of adversity for them. And the 5 seniors who were honored on Saturday at the Moody Center, certainly a huge part of keeping this team's goals at a very high level on that side. You said you watched a bunch of combine. We'll talk about it throughout the morning, but what were your overall takeaways from what you saw from Indianapolis over the weekend?
Some unbelievably athletic big guys.
Damn.
I mean, the offensive line guys guys look like all pros, and they're still just getting out of college. I mean, the big guys on the offensive line were incredible to me, just the way they moved. I mean, there were some fluid guys. That dude from Ohio State is just, you're talking about long and tall, the big man, they got special players all over the offensive line, all over this country. That just were, I was just amazed at how they moved. I mean, guys are moving like tight ends themselves,
Well, the big speed is an incredible thing, the fluidity of these athletes.
Wow.
And, I mean, I thought on Saturday the quarterbacks were, Anthony Richardson, the quarterback from Florida.
He's just a fantastic athlete. He can't throw to save his life. He can't throw an out route. He threw him up in the stands. And this is with nobody covering the guy. This is a guy just taking out routes. His accuracy is, you're talking about having to work, and obviously you can straighten that out. There's been a lot of, but more than anything, you have to be accurate. That's hard to really kind of teach. You can go over it and continue to practice it and whatever, but dude, that dude was throwing balls that weren't even close, some of the out routes he was throwing. But when it comes to athletic ability and running and jumping, my God.
Well, he is, it's safe to say coming out of Indianapolis, he's got work to do on his throwing, but at the same time, he just put on the most athletic performance by a quarterback in the history of the combine. I mean, freak athletic at almost 250 pounds.
Yeah, people were worried about Lamar Jackson throwing coming out of college. This guy is even worse.
And he's freakier athletically than even Lamar Jackson, and he's bigger. I mean, he's 244 pounds.
Massive dude.
Big guy that can run, and obviously in an era of Jalen Hurts improving his throwing, but,
Yeah, with the exception of his throwing, I thought he's got everything else, and I thought all the other quarterbacks
which is why someone will take a chance on him early.
Well, sure.
I don't know how. I would argue that Anthony Richardson's performance, and then, if he subsequently follows that up with strong interviews and a willingness to work on his accuracy.
Pro timing day.
Well,
just fantastic.
He'll do his pro timing day at Florida, but I just think the questions from coaches are going to be, what's your willingness to go to work on this? Are you going to be stubborn about your accuracy, or are we going to be able to work on this? Because I'm assuming he does. But his mindset towards that, in an era of Josh Allen and an era of Jalen Hurts improving.
True, you're right.
But you got to be willing to work at it, because it's not just going to happen. You can't just live on raw athletic ability. That's obviously, not going to be
not if you're throwing
picture.
it to the other guy or throwing a bunch of incompletions.
But a lot of league insiders and top brass feel like his overall athleticism will make up. You can build around that. Watch Justin Fields at Chicago, right? He's still not a fully polished passer, but you can build an offense.
And I don't think he will be for another couple of years.
When you're that freaky, and think about a team like Seattle at 5. Somebody just texted this. I was about to say it, but Seattle has the 5th pick, right? They could take a great player, or with Geno Smith, who they'll likely re-sign here coming up this week.
For another, or
at least franchise tag him. Why not
a year or 2 years?
Draft a young guy like this that you just, the freakishness is ridiculous. And
unless you're the Colts and you want to move up to, he can set the tone for a lot of things, but that accuracy, like you said, if you're going to have to be a hell of a worker, because it's not like he's just off, he's off. He has a lot of work to do.
Well, he struggle with those out routes, but boy, the ball comes out of his hand really easy. That's for sure. And so start with that. But again, I think the overall quarterbacks. I don't know that Anthony Richardson gets past 9, because the Carolina Panthers have the 9th pick, and I do believe there'll be 4 quarterbacks taken in the first 9 picks.
I do too. I think Levitt's. I think he really helped himself there, because that ball comes off differently than anybody else when he throws.
He's got. That's why you saw in workout gear, why people compare him to Josh Allen, because he's got a rare arm. But I thought maybe the most impressive player there was C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud, his arm strength is not that far back of Will Levis. It's really not.
He is. I think he's what we thought he was. You just had to see him play more. You just had to see him play against a team like Georgia, and that's all you needed to what kind of competitor he is. He's got everything else.
And he is, by his own admission, he is a ball placement expert, which is what NFL coaches love to hear. He can put the ball where he wants. It's accuracy, right? Ball placement, not just where it needs to be. Not
strong arms, timing, and everything. Just right where you need to have the ball.
With touch when it needs touch, can zip it when you need zip, but put it where the receiver can catch and run with it. And That's something Bill Walsh was always big with, right? The ball placement is the key. And then C.J. Stroud is an expert in that field, which solidifies his spot at the top. And then Bryce Young, he weighed in over 200 pounds. I don't know if he was wearing ankle weights.
I thought he was going to be in 185.
He was 204 and right at 5'10", so maybe a little bit bigger than some anticipated.
5'10" and an eighth or something. Come on.
And Bryce
is 5'9".
Bryce did not throw, but he is seen as the best, pure quarterback in this
I think more
class.
than anything, I mean, forget his height. He was going to be between 5'9" and 5'10". He wasn't going to be 6 foot, but it was the girth on that dude. That guy was 200 pounds. He looked like a 180 pounder, but he's thick.
Yeah.
204. That's not
well, he's not scrawny.
He's not
I don't
scrawny.
know that he's thick. Anthony Richardson's thick.
Yeah.
That dude's big.
Levis is thick. Those dudes are thick.
Yeah, he's to get over 200, to get the 200 number was big for Bryce. I don't know if he's wearing ankle weights or what, but he got himself to 204, and he will, I still think, be the number one quarterback, but obviously beauty in the eye of the beholder. We'll do the Colts trade up to 1, Texans sitting at 2.
Texans are going to take him.
I think the Texans would be happy to take either C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, but they have to have a favorite, right? You have to have one that you like and prefer more. But either way, Houston's sitting in a good spot at 2.
The team that looks like they may move up to do something is Carolina. They got to have a young quarterback. It's their time. It's time for them to find
and that's
a quarterback.
right, and that's you wonder how far you have to go. That's why I say Anthony Richardson, if he's the 4th quarterback and there are 4 to go in the top 9, he won't get past Carolina at 9.
No.
Now Carolina may have to move up because
Carolina would like to have somebody that they think is almost ready to play though too. You got to think Richardson he's going to be a while. He's going to be 2 years before he gets really cranking. If Carolina can get to Bryce Young or Stroud, they'd rather take him, I would believe. Either one of those guys.
Carolina's here's the problem.
Or even Levis. I think they'll take Levis too.
Well, but you got to go a long way to get him. I mean, if you're Carolina at 9, how far do you have to go to get the guy you're talking about? How high up? And that's a lot. And you're going to be dealing with teams ahead of you that don't want to move back because they want a quarterback too. I mean, it becomes a challenge for the Carolina Panthers because you got to go a long way.
The Colts need one.
Well, yeah. In the top 9, you could argue 5 teams could take quarterbacks, maybe 6, because Indianapolis, Houston for sure. We just mentioned Seattle
the
with
Raiders.
Geno Smith, the Raiders, the Panthers. It wouldn't be wrong if the Detroit Lions, who are a growing team, said, you know what, we're taking Anthony Richardson and we're going to let him play behind Jared Goff.
Yeah, there's another.
I mean, that's what I say. Richardson's freakish athletic performance puts him in a spot where a team like Detroit, like Seattle.
4.3?
Yeah.
Wow.
At 244. His broad jump, it was the freakiest athletic display by a quarterback of all time. And it's not close. He jumped, ran, and he throws the ball 70 yards effortlessly. It's not about, he's kind of a Cam Newton, Jalen Hurts starter kit kind of thing, but it's really about the accuracy. But he's so raw. He just hasn't played a lot of football. Really one season as a starter at Florida. And the inaccuracy showed up in the pocket too. So those are things that have to be worked on. But man, coaches salivate over that kind of toolkit where you can just, if he's willing to work at it, and like Josh Allen did, like Jalen Hurts did, to really become a more accurate passer, you can build an offense around that. We've seen the Eagles do it in Philadelphia, Baltimore, and a lot of levels with what Lamar Jackson does. And I think it's what Chicago is going to do with Justin Fields. And that's the good thing for a guy like Anthony Richardson is the game is kind of evolving towards him. Used to shun a guy like that, but boy, it's moving more and more to his style of play. So now 4 quarterbacks likely to be in the top 9 to 10 picks in the draft.
And what a good-looking group of running backs and defensive backs too, man. I hope for the Cowboys that the kid from Penn State just gets drafted later in the first round. I don't think they could pass up the kid at cornerback at Penn State.
Well, Cowboys have some needs. Obviously, this is a big week. It's franchise tag deadline week. That's coming up on, tomorrow. Tomorrow's the deadline to put a franchise tag on somebody. So
yeah, and Ty, they need a cornerback, correct, on the other side?
Yeah. They're gonna need some secondary help this offseason for sure.
They do, and they need secondary, they need receiver, they need interior defensive line, a lot of things, and they could look at a guy like Bijan Robinson if he were to slide. But I don't know, after a 4.46 yesterday, at his weight and his agility, that the top end speed is now not questioned, and as if it was going to be. Bijan Robinson solidifies himself as a pick, somebody you have to consider. Middle of the first round and beyond.
Yeah, he's 1 and 1A as the kid from Alabama, I believe.
Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs, who, by the way, both coached by Longhorn running backs coach Tashard Choice.
Man.
Because he was a transfer in from Georgia Tech. to Alabama this year, where he played one
He is
season.
lightning.
He's a really good player. All right, so those are some of the early observations. We got all morning, all week to talk combine. We got franchise tag day. We got plenty of hoops. This will be one of those mornings we'll try to jam as much as we can. We'll get to that Mark Adams story out of Texas Tech. It's not a pretty one, and it'll be a conversation for sure. It's also one of our lead stories. We'll get to all of it. It's B&E with you, just getting warmed up on 104.9, 101.9 AM 1260. Always streaming on the Horn app, on your smart speaker, and at hornfm.com. Sharp Vision Modern LASIK, folks, the official LASIK provider of Austin FC. What a big win for they had on Saturday night. Get a late goal to beat Montreal. So they're 1-1 to start it, and that's what's great about Q2 Stadium, or about Sharp Vision, right there by Q2 Stadium. It's about driver away to the north up Burnett Road at Sharp Vision Modern LASIK, and the ability to get clear vision. Isn't that what you're looking for if you struggle and battle with the glasses and the contacts and have for a while? I always tell you that once you have that free eye test at Sharp Vision with the great team there, you find out that 9 of 10 people, nine of us out of 10, have a procedure that can correct your vision and get you seeing clearly and out of the glasses and out of the contacts. That's a very high number, which tells you the hit rate's very good. And then you once you get in and you find out what's going on and what the procedure might be, they'll tell you about the guaranteed financing to help you fit the budget. They'll tell you about how you can use that FSA rollover pre-tax money on your paycheck to help you finance it and make that thing happen. They've also got the procedure start as low as $495 for eye. It's all with a great team, voted best of the best by the Statesman readers for the last 3 years in a row in the corrective LASIK category. Dr. Nicholas Lancaster and the great team at Sharp Vision Modern LASIK. Book an appointment today. Free eye test, 512-596-2020. That's 512-596-2020. And book one online as well. Website, sharp-vision.com. That's sharp with an E, vision.com. At Sharp Vision Modern LASIK, the official LASIK provider of Austin FC. Get down for sure. About 10 top stories this morning. A lot going on. Texas basketball. Texas women win the Big 12 championship. Share of it, but they swept Oklahoma, who they shared it with. So by virtue of 2 wins over the Sooners, they are the top seed at the Big 12 women's tournament. Texas men, the 2 seed behind Kansas, but they just trounced Kansas at the Moody Center. Feeling pretty good about the way their regular season wrapped up. Horns on the men's side will play in the Big 12 conference tournament beginning Thursday, 6 o'clock. They'll play the winner of the Bedlam game, Oklahoma State. Also got an emerging story and developing story out of Lubbock, where Texas Tech did not have a great season, but now they've suspended their head coach Mark Adams following racially insensitive comments he made during a coaching session to a player. There's some in Lubbock that think this is just kind of the last straw, and they were looking for something to suspend the coach. But it's a he said conversation. But the athletic director Kirby Hocutt announced the suspension, saying he made a inappropriate, unacceptable, and racially insensitive comment during a coaching session last week. Adams was encouraging the student athlete to be more receptive to coaching, and he referenced a Bible verse about workers, teachers, parents, and slaves serving their masters.
Ooh.
Adams immediately apologized and addressed this with his team after the fact. He said, I was quoting the Bible, but it's a biblical verse that...
He didn't quite say, who's your daddy?
Well, essentially saying, I'm your master, you're my slave.
Didn't he also say something like that? I can spit on you whenever I want.
Yes,
kind of deal?
That was an allegation from a...
Really?
I think we all, if you go back to the behind-the-scenes conversations at Texas Tech, Mark Adams had a lot of trouble behind the scenes with his coaching staff, even with players this year.
Having some communications problems.
It's not gone well for Texas Tech. And that, I think even any general observer would watch Texas Tech play and say that's too talented a roster to be with the
There's
record
something
that
else
they
going
have.
on, yeah.
Yeah, and this thing's kind of been simmering as the year's gone on, and now he's suspended head into the tournament, and some believe he's not going to coach again. Isn't that interesting that Chris Beard is looking for a job potentially, and Texas Tech is now open again potentially? All those conversations will be had as we head to Big 12 tournament time. We're also talking NFL Scouting Combine and the Freaks. I think the Freaks are on display, and that's kind of the caveat. I mean, we knew there'd be freaky athletes. Does that make them great football players? The thing that's really scary is when you see a player who you got to see for 3 or 4 years in college, you know is really good, and then they go freaky, right? Which backs up the freakness. I mean, Bijan Robinson, I think you could argue that with his, he looked to be in great shape and ran 4.46. Devin Achane from Texas A&M with the 4th fastest running back time all time at 4.32. That's not a surprise because Achane's a track guy.
Yeah, but I believe he'll be a specialist. He will. He won't be able to take a lot of pounding. He's not that big.
Yeah, he's a flash player who can help you in a lot of ways because he can run 4.3.
I saw a little guy from Kansas State do some nice things.
Yeah, Deuce Vaughn didn't run a 40, but did some other things. He's very small, but I don't know that he helped himself that much. Who didn't really help themselves there at the combine were the receivers. I don't think any receiver really. Quentin Johnston from TCU wasn't as big as people anticipated him being. He's only 6'2.5".
I thought the guy from Tennessee was flying though.
Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah.
But he wasn't as fast as they expected him to be, and because his route running is still in question. People thought maybe with a freaky workout, Hyatt could work his way into the first round. He still looks like none of this means they can't play. Let's just say we're talking about what they did this weekend. It doesn't mean they can't play, but scouts would say that Jalen Hyatt still needs route running work, and it wasn't as explosive as they had hoped. The most explosive receiver was Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, his overall top end 40 time was not, eye popping, but his short shuttle and his quick game, some of the best ever. Some of the best ever recorded at the Combine for the Ohio State receiver out of Rockwall, Texas. So he's a guy named to watch. But when you're looking at freaks that can play, the one that jumps off the screen on the offensive side this is something I'm not kidding you. The Dallas Cowboys will have to consider this at pick 26, and that's the Georgia tight end Darnell Washington.
Yeah, I knew he was big, and I knew he presents himself as a huge target, but I didn't know he was that ability to his quickness and all that. I didn't know he was that quick.
Well, that's why I think that's the Combine is. Whether it's just a TV show in prime time for the NFL, yes.
Yeah, but you get to see that quickness.
But Darnell Washington playing in that 3 tight end system at Georgia, where a lot of times he's not even a primary target. He's more of an inline blocker. For Darnell Washington to show up at 6'6" and a half and 268 pounds and run a 4.6 540, he ran the 3rd best short shuttle time. Think about that, of anybody. receivers.
Yeah, his ability to stop and go, that's
stop
incredible.
and go at 6'7". That's the kind of stuff, that pushes him into the first round. And we've talked about the Cowboys potentially losing Dalton Schultz in free agency. I mean, and Mike McCarthy wants to be more physical and run the ball.
Billy Joe Dupree.
I'm telling you, a big tight end like that because here's what you know about Darnell Washington out of Georgia. He's a willing blocker, and he's a good blocker.
Yeah, and that's right, because he's used to it at Georgia.
But he also
well.
showed elite receiver skills, and this is what, this is exactly, when I listen to Mike McCarthy talk about what he wants that offense to be, they want to run the ball
game,
more.
Yes.
They want to be more physical. Well, that's the kind of guy that helps you get there because, you're going to lose potentially Dalton Schultz, but you may replace his receiving ability with a more athletic guy who can also block. I mean, you have to consider that. I don't know where the Cowboys are going, but Darnell Washington, who was seen as an early second-round pick, all of a sudden puts himself into late first-round conversations, and he's the tallest tight end since, Mercedes Lewis back in 2006. So I think he's a name you have to put out there as well. And earlier we were talking about Anthony Richardson, the Florida quarterback. The debate with him is going to be, can he become Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts, or is he going to be Dante Culpepper, right? Or one of these kind of guys because he's a freak. But let me just say this for Anthony Richardson, who ran 4.4 in the 40, huge hands, explosive vertical jump of 40.5, broad jump 10.9, the freakiest quarterback workout ever at the Combine. And he did it at 6'4" and 244. His size comp, Buck, would be George Kittle.
Well, that's or
Derrick Henry.
I'm not trying to change his position, but that dude can play at that level of football at the tight end position.
Well, he's built like one.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he's built like a tight end, but runs like a receiver. And then he's wanting to play quarterback, which that's. If he's going to work at it, he can be good. But I think his performance this weekend, just to hear the buzz.
Oh, you got it. Somebody's going to take that chance.
Somebody will take it, and that's, as we said, a team that already maybe has a quarterback who's not going to have to press him right onto the field like a Seattle or a Detroit would be an interesting conversation with him. Because if like you're the Colts,
they need a player
or
to play.
Houston, and you're going right now.
Yeah, you need a player.
You're going C.J. Stroud. You're going Bryce Young.
Absolutely.
But if those guys are already gone. I mean, remember we played you the sound. Pete Carroll, the coach of the Seahawks, who got rid of the Russell Wilson problem, it appears, had Geno Smith in the Pro Bowl this year, but said this week, leading up to the Combine workouts, that, hey, you're not in the top 5 that often. We don't plan to be up here all that often and the only reason they're up there, Buck, is that's the Denver pick for the Russell Wilson trade. Pete Carroll was pretty clear that, we're used to drafting in the 20s and sometimes in the 30s because that's the type of organization we are. We're up here at number 5. If somebody like that is there, like a Will Levis, who might be a bit of a project, or an Anthony Richardson, we'd have to consider it. I mean, you'd have to because it's the most important position in the game. And, is Geno Smith the absolute long-term answer there? Fair question. Same in Detroit with Jared Goff.
Yeah, the Jets look like they're going to take Carr. Carr is that piece that will make everybody else think, which way do we go? And Vegas needs to have a young quarterback too. They're not looking for the 1 or 2 year guy that's going to be around and then is going to retire or whatever. They need to have a young quarterback, and so would Carolina.
Well, that's that's what I keep presenting is
the movement.
If Houston and Indianapolis are going quarterback for sure, and they're at 2 and 4, and who knows if Indy moves up or Houston tries to move up to secure the exact quarterback that they want with Chicago. I just mentioned Detroit and Seattle will have to consider, maybe some quarterbacks that are really talented but need time. Well, if you're Vegas at 7 and Carolina at 9, the quarterbacks might be gone.
Looked pretty good.
By the time you draft at 7
quarterback kid from Houston looked pretty good.
Clayton Tune?
Yeah, Clayton Tune did some really nice things. He doesn't excite you, but he's pretty solid.
I mean, had a good career at Houston, and then that they're flinging it around out there. But that to me, that becomes the really interesting part of the top end of the draft is because you're right. The Vegas Raiders and the Carolina Panthers are quarterback desperate.
Yes.
But what if 2 teams ahead of them, like Seattle and Detroit, take quarterbacks? And now the 4 quarterbacks are gone. Now you're Josh McDaniel going, hey, wait a second. We got rid of Derek Carr, kicked him to the curb, and he's going to the Jets. And now all of a sudden we don't have a quarterback. And we didn't get to draft one of the. And
God, is that a bad organization?
And that's where you wonder as you get closer to April, and the draft's not until the end of April, very end of April. Would the Vegas Raiders get crazy and try to go up, like way up, like to Arizona at 3? to secure the quarterback that they want. I mean, those are the kind of conversations that are going to be had.
Or the Saints will be in trouble if they lose Derek Carr if he doesn't go there.
Yeah, well, we're still waiting on Aaron Rodgers at this point, it appears.
Oh, I forgot about the guy in the dark.
We're still waiting on Aaron. You know what it sounds like to me with the Jets is that Robert Saleh would sign Derek Carr today.
Yes, yeah, you would.
But the owner, Woody Johnson, is kind of waiting on it. They want to wait on Aaron Rodgers to make a call because if Aaron Rodgers wants to play, the Jets are the logical spot.
Yeah, the Woody likes that splash, the New York guy.
Because everything you hear from the Carr camp and the coaches camp in New York is they're ready. They're ready. And they're just waiting on owner approval. And but now you hear the Derek Carr camp saying, well, the Saints and Panthers are coming hard. Let's get something going here, guys. Let's knock this out. That could happen here in short order because
now you can see the Panthers also going after Derek Carr.
Oh, sure. Well, those we know who the quarterback desperate teams are.
Yep,
for sure. And we know where Derek Carr has visited and would have interest in. And that's where it stands. All right, we'll get into a lot. We got a lot of NFL coming out of the Combine. All the conversations had, the freaky performances. We'll certainly get into Longhorn spring practice. First workout of the spring is this morning. We'll hit that coming up in our Coach's Corner and dive in for the some of the big conversations around that. And I'll ask you, Buck, I was thinking about this weekend with the Lamar Jackson days of our quarterback lives.
Oh, I forgot about that guy. He's still around, isn't he?
Can I give you a scenario? I'll give you all a scenario I'll get you a scenario. This would be, let's put out there food for thought this morning. We'll also get some B&E facts of the day, and we're cranking with you on a good, bad, and ugly Monday here on B&E. First, it's Craig Way. Yeah, Specs text line 512-337-3776. We'll get into some of the comments. A lot of them on our first hour of conversation. More to come, including saying congratulations to the Texas women's basketball team, also to Marcus Carr and Sir Jabari Rice, who was on display on Saturday, both honored by the Big 12 yesterday. We'll get you details. So it's one of those head on a swivel Mondays. You know, it's good, bad, and ugly from the weekend. But, man, a lot coming this week with Texas spring football starting today. Texas Pro Day on Thursday. Tomorrow afternoon is the deadline to put franchise tags on players. So that's going to become, you know, the big news cycle. This coming out of the Combine is going to be Lamar Jackson and Tony Pollard and who gets the tag, who doesn't. Daniel Jones with the New York Giants. So we'll be paying attention to those conversations. And I'll give you this strange scenario I've concocted in my crazy head, Buck, about the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, and maybe a bitter owner out there. We'll get you details on that. Also, this text says accurately, hey, the good of the weekend, UT men basketball playing their best game of the season. The bad is the passing of UT first baseman Jeff Onoveros. Gone way too soon. Yeah, that's very, very sad. Texas baseball's got issues right now, which we'll get into today and throughout the week. They're not a very good baseball team right now. They play good in spurts and places, but they got a lot of holes they still have to fix on that baseball team, dropping 2 out of 3 out at Cal State Fullerton over the weekend. But, yes, going into the weekend, we heard word that the former Longhorn first baseman and slugger Jeff Onoveros, I believe Round Rock Dragon back in the day, passed away at the age of 43. And I talked to some folks over the weekend that he had a kidney problem that he was dealing with. And as early as last Sunday, thought he was doing good and thought he was, going to be fine. And then took a turn and was passed away late in the week last week. Really, really sad piece of information right there. So I hated to see that, and you always hate to see it. But rest in peace to Jeff Onoveros and all of his friends. I know so many fans and Longhorn, the whole program will be mourning the loss of the big slugger. So sad news there for sure. We'll take your good, bad, and ugly from the busy weekend. Talk about the freakiest performances at the Combine. What does it mean, if anything? Also, how about, speaking of freaky, Buck, to be any facts of the day, Kevin Durant and Donovan and Booker.
Yeah, together.
They're going to be a problem. They're going to be the problem.
Yeah, that is a problem.
Devin Booker and Kevin Durant played yesterday in Dallas, or against the Mavericks yesterday, and became just the third pair of teammates in Suns history to each have 35 or more and shoot 60% or more in the same game. I mean, those two are so efficient. They're very similar players offensively. They like to shoot in the same areas, and where they make it almost impossible to stop. And if DeAndre Ayton gets involved down low, I don't know what you do.
Yeah, Kevin Durant makes people around him pretty doggone good, especially the next highest score. I mean, he did that with the Warriors. He walked in and instantly became, obviously, he's just a great player. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. He's such a great shooter. If you're the number one guy on your team and that guy joins your team and then you become the number one in 1A, look out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of scoring right there.
Well, you can
outscore that group.
Kevin Durant's one of the greatest scorers in the history of the league.
Right.
And Devin Booker's maybe one of the top 2 or 3 best young scorers in the league. Well, you put the two together with a point guard like Chris Paul, and it's a super team potentially, and it has all the makings of it. They're going to be really hard to stop. Obviously, this on the text line says, a couple of thoughts, says, which person threw the biggest monkey wrench in everybody's draft board? That's an interesting way to pose it. And this one says, Ty, please tell you we don't need a tight end in Dallas. Well, let me just say this. I think Darnell Washington, as I mentioned, is one of those guys who throws a monkey wrench in your draft board. If you're the Cowboys at 26, Buck,
and you're talking about running the ball,
and you want to be more physical and run the ball, but you know your quarterback needs more weapons, not less, and you're looking for difference makers on the offensive side of the ball. It's what you're looking for. You have to have difference makers. Darnell Washington, based on what we saw him do at Georgia for 3 seasons, and then the athletic freakishness at 6'6", almost 6'7", that's a guy you have to consider because he's a mismatch. And he's what and if you're drafting 26, that's a part of the draft in the first round where you're looking for best player available, period. When you have as many holes as the Cowboys have to fill. And as we say, the Cowboys will only have 20 guys with first round grades. Darnell Washington may have pushed himself into a first round grade with that performance, Buck. To be that athletic,
what's scary is he probably won't be the first tight end taken. That kid from Notre Dame will.
Well, that's why I say this is a loaded wide receiver or tight end class. It's not a great wide receiver class. You have to add that to it. If the Cowboys are looking for a wide receiver, there's not I mean, the best ones will probably be gone by 26.
Say from Utah, there's tons of tight ends.
The tight ends but if I listen to Mike McCarthy and what he wants from his offense, Darnell Washington fits the bill because he's a physical
He
run
is a
block,
big target.
and he's a big target for your quarterback who likes to throw to his tight end. He's got wide receiver skills in his short shuttle. I mean, you can tell me they don't need a tight end, but man, that guy, I need a difference maker like that on my football team. Ask Kirby Smart if you liked having him.
Joey Porter Jr. at cornerback to help out the other side. That's who you need.
I don't know if
especially
they go defense.
if it's late in the first.
26 is where the Cowboys sit currently. Bijan had a good day. We'll get to all of it. We got one of those more good top stories than we have time to discuss them this morning, so we'll try to jam it all in and get you ready for spring practice coming up for the Longhorns. We've got Austin FC with their first 3 points of the year. Jam-packed with you on 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. Streaming always on your Horn app, on your smart speaker, and at hornfm.com. What a weekend we had. What a Monday it is. A little fog has set in here to start your Monday morning, 6 March. Be careful out there as you get it up and out. But what a week it's going to be. What a weekend it was. It was a few days that featured tremendous weather here in Central Texas and all over the great state. We had freaky performances at the NFL Scouting Combine, including a couple of Longhorns. We've got a championship for the Texas women's basketball team. The Texas men locked up the 2 spot and played maybe their best game of the year. We'll get to all of it coming up. Also, Buck, the weekend featured Chris Rock unloading on Will Smith and his wife for the first time since last year's Academy
Both
Award.
of them, huh?
Oh, yeah.
It was hilarious.
He did a I didn't see the whole Netflix special, but I watched the 5 or 6 minutes of at the end when he just, for the first time, really had at the Smiths.
Smith and Smith?
Smith and Smith.
I see.
And it's funny. It's most of it we can't play on the radio, but
None of it.
But it
of
is.
He said the B word about
55
times in
and that's
2
not
minutes.
ball. But, yes, so a lot there from the weekend. We'll try to get to as much as we can. Hot or not for the end of the hour. Coming up bottom of the hour, we're going to check in for the first time with a new guest on our show, Buck. We need somebody who covers Austin FC, and Austin FC posted a big win, 3 points, and we're going to check in with Eric Goodman, who covers the Verde for the Austin Chronicle. Does a real good job, so we'll check in with him for a quick minute and talk about the big win on Saturday night, plus what's coming. They're about to play in the CONCACAF tournament coming up.
Yeah, they got a lot of games here coming up.
They do, and it's a weird for people coming to soccer trying to figure out, okay, this is an MLS game, this is CONCACAF. How does this scheduling all work? That's about to happen in the world of baseball, Buck, too, because, they're doing spring training,
Mm-hmm.
but the World Baseball Classic is about to begin. So teams are going to go play for their own country here through kind of like the World Cup of baseball. And a lot of names, I think the Houston Astros have like 14 players who are playing for various countries as they'll leave camp there down in West Palm Beach. But that's happening. So it's one of those real busy stretches. Got a lot to do. Let's start with your headlines. Try to get you caught up as much as we can on the headlines of the weekend. If you were knee-deep in the barbecue cook-off or whatever you're doing all weekend, let's get you caught up on what went on. UBO Business Services brings it to you. Yeah, the weekend highlighted on Saturday with the Texas basketball teams, men and women, wrapping up their regular seasons. And first off, big congratulations to Vic Schaefer's Texas women. They beat down Kansas State 80-52 in Manhattan. They clinch a share of the Big 12 regular season title, but by virtue of a sweep of Oklahoma this year, they are the number 1 seed in the Big 12 tournament. It's the program's first regular season championship for Coach Schaefer and for the program in nearly 20 years.
And I couldn't be more proud of them. It's a great win for us. It's a great championship for this team and this program. It's hard to believe it hadn't happened at Texas in 20 years, but this is why we're here. This is why these players chose to come to Texas. It's why I chose to come to Texas.
Longhorns will open up play as the 1 seed at the Big 12 Women's Tournament on Friday. Rodney Terry and the Texas men, meanwhile, closed out their regular season and their regular season home schedule at the Mood emphatically. They honored their 5 seniors, then proceeded to play possibly their best 40 minutes of basketball in conference play. They clamped down and ran away from third-ranked Kansas, 75-59, wrap up the 2 seed at the Big 12 tournament. Jabari Rice, Tyrese Hunter combined for 43 in the backcourt, while the Texas defense forced the Jayhawks into a 36% shooting day, held them to 16 points below their season average at a frenzied Moody Center for a happy Rodney Terry.
We've been waiting all year for this one right here. I tell you, we put it together defensively. We put it together offensively. We got offense off our defense. We guarded a really good team for the first half and held them 24, one of the top teams in the country, to 24 points. I mean, it was just awesome to see.
Held them to under 30% shooting in that first half. Ahead of this week's conference tournament, league coaches voted on their all-conference honors yesterday and announced them. Was there ever a doubt? Texas guard Jabari Rice named the league's 6th man of the year, or the nation's 6th man of the year. Marcus Carr named the first-team All-Big 12 squad alongside the conference's player of the year. No doubt about it with Jalen Wilson from Kansas. K-State's Jerome Tang named the coach of the year in his first year there in Manhattan. And former Westlake Chaparral KJ Adams named the league's most improved player. Big day over at the Texas football complex. Steve Sarkisian and Longhorns hit the field this morning for the first week of spring practice. It'll include practices this morning, Wednesday, and Friday. Program will also host their pro day for draft-eligible NFL players, include coming up on Thursday. Bijan Robinson, who worked out at the Combine yesterday, confirmed after his workout at Indianapolis that he will not be working out here in Austin. He's just going to be on hand to support his teammates. But at Indianapolis yesterday, Bijan backed up his status as the top running back in the 2023 draft class, posted a 4.46 in the 40-yard dash. Fellow Longhorn Roschon Johnson, 4.58 at over 220 pounds. Devin Achane, the Aggies running back, ran the fastest time among the backs, 4.32. Not a good weekend for the Texas baseball team out in Fullerton, California. Their early season struggles continues. Horns dropped 2 out of 3 to Cal State Fullerton, including a gut punch 11th inning walk-off loss yesterday in the rubber game. They fall to 4-7. No struggle for the Texas softball team. They made it 9 wins in a row, beat Louisiana yesterday. Outside of the 40 acres, how about Austin FC? Earned their first 3 points of the season with a 1-0 win over FC Montreal on Saturday. Maxi Urruti broke a scoreless tie with a nifty goal late in the second half to lift the home side from an electrified jam-packed crowd at Q2. And in golf, how about Kurt Kitayama? He outplayed some of the biggest names in golf, including Scotty Scheffler, to win the Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill.
Yeah, Kitayama's been playing really well. He's been in there battling some of the best in the world. He just couldn't get over the hump.
Well, Tip,
I think it was he just 30.
You're waiting on him to blow it, and it was the other guys that all hit some bad shots down the stretch, including Scotty
he's got
Scheffler.
great iron play.
Well, it's a competitive field, and that was a good one. Good tournament there.
This week, the players?
And I believe it is the players this week. The schedule is all screwed up for me in my head.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, this will be interesting to see if
Tiger's not playing.
He's not. He's already made that
decision.
decision.
Announced he won't be playing until the Masters. Tiger will not be playing in the players. That came down last week. But, no Players Championship for Tiger Woods. Plenty of golf. Got some good racing. How about Max Verstappen? He wins the first F1 race of the calendar. So, busy weekend, man, to say the least. Before we get into our coaches' corner, let me mention this as I tease at the Lamar, because tomorrow is the deadline. Tomorrow afternoon is when you got to put a franchise tag on a player if you're going to do it. And then beyond tomorrow, we'll kind of begin that tampering period behind the scenes for free agency, because free agency will start the following week. And in the NFL, the offseason really about to kick into high gear coming out of the Combine. But so think about this with Lamar Jackson, Buck. Report today that Lamar Jackson met with, remember, he's his own agent, which we both agree is not a good idea.
No.
But Lamar Jackson met with the Ravens again and continues his demand for a guaranteed contract, which the Ravens will not do. They're going to put a franchise tag on him between now and tomorrow. The question is it the exclusive, which would lock him in at $40 million plus for the year? And the only question there would be, would Lamar Jackson sign it or not? Because there's a chance that if they put the exclusive on him, he may just say, I'm not playing. I'm not doing this again until I get a long-term deal. The other option is obviously to do the non-exclusive tender, which used to be called the transition tag, which you could put the non-exclusive, which would pay him $32.5 million guaranteed, but it would allow him to negotiate with other teams. And if another team comes in that wants to offer him a contract, they can, and then the Ravens would have the right to match it and or give him up for a package which would include at least 2 number 1 draft picks. Here's my conspiracy. Who's selling their team right now?
Daniel Snyder.
Daniel Snyder. What if Daniel Snyder swooped in and gave up the farm to get Lamar Jackson, give him a guaranteed contract, make that happen? And what if Lamar Jackson already knows this? There's already been back channels. That's why he's playing hardball with the Ravens to get this thing set up. And that Daniel Snyder, however, has let him know that I'll give you the guaranteed contract.
I still own a team.
I still own the team. And whoever buys the team is going to be stuck with your contract when they get here.
Plus, I can stick somebody on the way out.
And they won't have their number 1 draft picks for the next several years. So if he is forced by the other owners to sell it to Jeff Bezos, who he doesn't want to sell it to, Jeff Bezos would buy the team. Now, again, I don't know if the league would step in on this. I don't think they can. But Daniel Snyder still runs the Washington Commanders, right?
True.
Ron Rivera is not in charge. Daniel Snyder is. I know his
Daniel Snyder's
power
wife
has been
may.
weakened.
I don't know.
Could you see that happening? Because clearly Lamar Jackson feels like somebody will give him a guaranteed contract on the open market if he can get to it. Clearly. Or at least in my mind.
Yeah.
Could Daniel Snyder go there? Oh, I'll give it. Kind of like the Cleveland Browns did.
I'll give it to you all right.
I'll give it to you. I'll give up all my draft picks for the future. And because I guess what, I'm selling the team. It's not going to be my problem. I do wonder if the league would step in at that point, but I don't know if they could. I'll just say keep an eye on that. That was something I was dreaming about over the weekend. Maybe that would be something that could.
What is
come
Daniel
into
Jones
play.
doing? What is he trying to do? He's
Negotiating.
trying to negotiate $40 million.
Yeah.
I told him 37, and I'm done. That's my last offer to you,
Nice.
Daniel Jones.
His agent has made it clear it's got to start with a 4.
It's got to start with a 4.
Well, that's the going rate for quarterbacks. Ask Dak Prescott, who is making premium money.
32 to 40. 37 is pretty good if I give you 37 for Daniel Jones, right? Ty, you take that?
I still think that's too much.
Let's go to your Coach's Corner at 7:15 every morning here on B&E. It's brought to you by Audio Visual Consultations. Somebody asked about Mark Adams' suspension at Texas Tech. Yeah, we mentioned that last hour. We'll revisit the Texas Tech situation. It's a bit of a mess, to say the least, in Red Raider land right now. But we got so much to get into here. By the way, speaking of Jerry Jones, you see he did a sit-down with a bunch of reporters over the weekend in Indianapolis. On the bus, Buck. Up on the bus with the Star.
Of course, on the bus.
And it was pretty compelling. I mean, he had a lot of things to say, including, talk about Dak Prescott. I mean, essentially challenging Dak that if you have he called it if you have a quarterback making a competitive contract, meaning you're paying the market rate, you can't afford to put as many weapons around him as you used to be able to, meaning your quarterback has to play better. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it would be nice to have all the weapons we had at one point, but we had to pay our quarterback competitively within the market. Once we did that, we couldn't keep as many weapons, and we just need our quarterback to be better, and that's why they're giving Mike McCarthy.
Could have done better than that with Cooper. You could have done better than that.
No, they've pretty much. Jerry addressed that and said yes. I mean, in hindsight, could we have used Amari Cooper or someone like him in that game against the 49ers? Yes, but at the same time, we feel good about it, the future, because we cleared whatever. It's Jerry Jones.
Oh, yeah, that tight end will save you from Georgia.
I mean, look, it's not me saying you go read it. He did 90 minutes sitting on the bus talking with the media and the reporters there covering the Cowboys, and said essentially what we said. If you're going to give the quarterback $40+ million, this is where the Giants are right now. It limits your ability to put great. I mean, think about Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Patrick Mahomes had to give up Tyreek Hill. They bring in a bunch of spare guys at wide receiver to go with Travis Kelce, a 7th-round rookie at running back. That quarterback's got to play. I mean, you can't afford to keep them all anymore once you pay the quarterback a big contract, right? So once you do, your quarterback has to play to that level, or it's not going to work. And if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you still have the quarterback making a rookie deal,
got to put all the players around him.
You can do that still. But once you pay him, and I like Jerry's words, give him a competitive contract to the market, well, then he has to play better. And that's what they're putting on Mike McCarthy, that he's got to get more out of Dak Prescott and build an offense that is more quarterback-friendly to him, which is going to lead to a lot of fun offseason conversation. Speaking of that transition, the franchise tag, you can expect it to be put on Tony Pollard. I mean, I'm assuming the Cowboys will make a last-ditch effort here in the next 20 hours to try to get something done with Tony Pollard, but most don't anticipate that happening, which means Pollard will get the franchise tag, and then Dalton Schultz, Leighton Vander Esch, Anthony Brown, and all the other free agents. Cowboys would then turn their attention likely to their right tackle Terrence Steele, who's a restricted free agent. They've got to get something done with him, as you head towards league business opening.
Yeah, they got to pay him.
Hey, how about the Longhorns opening spring practice? What are as we start this process, you've been through it before. It's practice. I mean, you're going to have 15 workouts and 14 practices, and then the orange-white scrimmage on April 15th. So you got 6 weeks to get in 15 practices. What are your goals for this Longhorn team as we start this process?
This is generally when you started looking for your leaders. Now, when you come out of those winter workouts, Ian, it's all a bunch of rah-rah. Nobody gets hit. It's just a lot of movement. A lot of strength and conditioning type of stuff. But here's where your leaders come out in the springtime. The ones that will carry your team right through the summertime. Who's going to meet with who? Are we going to catch the ball at receivers? Who's going to be the guy saying, let's go? Hopefully it's the quarterback saying, we're going to be throwing at 5:30, be here, or whatever it is. But this is where you build your leaders. This is where some of the young guys, this is where I expect this offensive line and guys like Banks to lead this football team and workouts and things like that. I mean, spring you're going to see, and you're going to try to tighten up some stuff. As I said, the wide receiver stuff needs to be tightened out. Who's going to be your running backs? How's your secondary going to look with some of the new guys that are coming in? But this is where your leadership starts to build right now.
Leadership for sure. And can Quinn Ewers take a more active role in that leadership realm? We know, if you listen to the coaches, guys like Jordan Whittington, Jatavion Sanders, Kelvin Banks, you mentioned, these are the guys that are immediately lead. But you need your quarterback to be more of a proactive leader. And
your young quarterback that's here, who's been here working out,
Malik Murphy.
That one and the other one.
Arch Manning. Yeah, and I think Arch just
you're going to get pushed by just that guy showing up on the field. But
the early returns on Arch are, we were doing this show and covering this program when Chris Sims showed up, right? Remember the whole story with Chris Sims showing up in the limo for his first practice, which everyone admits now was a big mistake. The Arch, because Arch Manning is the biggest brand name the Longhorns have recruited really at any position since they recruited Chris Sims. When Chris Sims came in, he was the number one quarterback in the nation. His father was a Super Bowl champion, and he was Phil Sims. Everybody knew him, so we knew that story. Obviously, Arch Manning comes with its, you don't have to explain the pedigree, so it's a huge name. But the early reports behind the scenes are he's the opposite of what you would think. He's a gym rat. I mean, he's just a head-down, go-to-work dude. I mean, there's no flash. He's lost his student ID like 3 or 4 times. He's just learning college, and there's no pomp and circumstance. He's just a worker, and to me, that can only help drive Quinn.
No, he's not interested in limousine rides. He's used to working hard.
Yeah, and that's his thing. He's a competitor,
despite his name. Yeah.
Well, and I think for both his uncles and his grandfather, I mean, you could argue, and maybe even his dad Cooper, who might have been a really good player had he not had injuries playing football. The number one thing that drives all those guys is they're competitors. They compete. They love to compete and play. And Peyton, staunch competitor, right? That's what you hope for, because that's the word I will put on this training camp for the Longhorns. This spring practice is competitive. How competitive does it get? Because guys have to earn spots. There's finally depth at positions where no position is safe. Just because you played there last year doesn't mean you're playing there this year. And they're bringing in through the transfer portal and through the recruiting realm real competition, guys who want to come take your job. To me, that is music to the Texas program's ears, because it's what is lacked. I mean, there's been many a spring practice. I mean, just 2 years ago, they couldn't even have a spring game, Buck, because they didn't have enough scholarship offensive linemen to do it. They only had 7. Here we sit this morning, and there are 15 scholarship offensive linemen who go to camp this week, battling for starting jobs. I think the only safe position is Kelvin Banks at left tackle.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this team get a little bit better when it comes to understanding what the game of football is all about, a little bit of football smarts. I think they still have to continue to work on that, because we all get after the head coach, late in games, but the players have to be on the field to play it. They have to stop some of the momentum when it goes one way, too. I mean, some of that's on them.
Yeah. No.
The basics, as I said, I keep going on the wide receivers. You came here because you could catch a football. Yeah, you can do all those other things. You got great speed, you can leap and everything else. But the fundamentals of the game is you have to catch the football. And that's the same for the quarterback. You have to be able to put the ball where your guy has an opportunity to get it. It's just some of the smart things that they have to do. You know what I mean?
Football IQ.
Yeah, the IQ is still, because we'll talk about how they ran away and did this in the third quarter, and then they didn't do this in the fourth. How do you win these games? How does your football IQ help you win games? You got all kinds of athletes, but how does your IQ in pressure situations help you win, instead of us looking back at the head coach and going, well, he didn't run the ball enough in that situation. Okay, well, he threw it enough to some great athletes. Why couldn't they still win at that time? You know what I mean? Why did they drop balls at that time? Why did they do this at that time? Find ways to win games.
I think that's a great observation, and it's one that we'll all make. But it's the competitiveness of the camp. Can that lead to a program that gets over go back to the losses last year? They had 4 losses in the regular season, 8-4. All 4 of them, you could point to 2 or 3 plays that changed the game.
Yeah, that's what I mean. How do you win that game? How do you win those games?
How do you become a winning program?
Because and then you and I can talk about it on Monday and say, you know what, they could have screwed that up and lost that game. When will you get to that point? We say, you know what, that game right there, they won. But man, if they didn't do this, they would have lost that game. That's what I'd rather be saying. They won that game because they did something. It just gets to be old when they continue to lose those type of games.
No doubt. All right, we'll come back. We'll pick up that conversation. Your biggest questions headed into the Longhorn spring practice, which begins this morning.
Who's going to run the ball? That's a big deal for me. I think
who emerges at running back is a massive conversation.
And,
for sure.
And along with this offensive line, it'll be so much better even from what they were last year. So, is your running game? Does it have to be unbelievable? Now that you've lost Bijan, you're going to lose, and Roshan, you lose a lot of yardage that way. But this offensive line is going to be a lot better, I believe.
Well, and Steve Sarkisian's had a 1,000-yard rusher wherever he's been. He's going to run the ball because it sets up the play action sets up his shots down the field. But the whole thing has to be in better sync. It can't be a hit or miss passing game. It's got to be more in sync. But yes, clearly the running game will take a step back. But can the entire offense, as a whole,
take a step forward? I agree with you. I agree.
Becomes the big question for the Longhorns. And the defense, can it build on what it did a year ago, which was take dramatic improvements, and they've added pieces there too and gotten a lot of key guys back. So we'll preview spring all the way through it. Steve Sarkisian will meet the media after practice today. It's not a press conference, by the way. It's just an availability, but we'll certainly hear from Sark coming up this morning after the first workout for the Longhorns. And we'll get back into the combine. Bijan Robinson, Roschon Johnson, the freaks of the weekend in Indianapolis. We'll reset all of that as we get you rolling on a good, bad, and ugly Monday. Coming back, we'll talk about the first 3 points captured by the Austin FC on Saturday night. We'll also get the hot or not topics before the end of the hour. What a busy Monday it is. We're glad you're with us. B&E with you. This text appropriately says, rest in peace, Jeff Ontiveros. Absolutely. Thoughts and prayers to he and his family. Passed away late last week at the age of 43. Surprise to most everybody, but apparently was dealing with a kidney issue and a kidney problem behind the scenes and gone way too soon, without a doubt. Somebody on our Cowboys conversation says, because we had a debate, I mentioned Darnell Washington's performance, the Georgia tight end at the Combine over the weekend. To me, puts him in the conversation for the Cowboys with their first-round pick at 26, and several disagreed with me. And then this guy says, Darnell Washington looks like an Antonio Gates type to me. Can't pass on that if you're the Cowboys. That's kind of my mindset. And I think Darnell Washington looks like a basketball player, but more physical than that, at almost 270 pounds. I think that's a guy the Cowboys would have to consider because, the freaks will be talked about from the weekend. People will nitpick about 40 times and things that really don't matter. The tape matters, performance matters. But in the end, I think there's a consensus that the positions for this year, and every year has its own strengths and weaknesses, every draft, right? This is a strong draft for quarterbacks. I mean, it really is. I mean, last year it wasn't when Kenny Pickett was the only first-round pick. I mean, everybody knew that, which led to kind of a dull draft because there wasn't the drama of a quarterback or several quarterbacks at the top. This one has 3, maybe 4. They'll go in the first 10 picks. And Anthony Richardson out of Florida, his freak performance on Saturday puts him into the conversation. But the weak position on offense is seen as wide receiver, Buck. That it's not a great wide receiver class. Tight end is seen as probably the second strongest class on offense, and that's where so many guys, including Darnell Washington, Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer, all in that conversation, and running back, a strong class with Bijan Robinson leading the way, which is why I say for the Cowboys at 26, if you're looking for more offensive weapons, especially that are cheap labor on rookie contracts, I think you have to consider those guys with the Cowboys at 26. But that's the Bijans, the Darnell Washingtons, one of those tight ends, all could be in the mix for the Cowboys. So we'll talk more draft. We'll talk more NFL. The franchise tag deadline is tomorrow afternoon. Certainly the Longhorns and spring practice. But on Saturday night at part of a really busy Saturday, Q2 Stadium, the Austin FC picked up their first 3 points of the year with a 1-0 win over Montreal, FC Montreal. Let's go to the Vaqueros hotline, get a quick visit with someone who covers Austin FC at a very high level for the Austin Chronicle. He is Eric Goodman. Eric, how are you, bud?
Doing great, gentlemen. How are y'all?
Fantastic, man.
Doing great, brother. Doing great. Listen, how about the win on Saturday? It was 0-0. The defense had been shorn up from the previous 3-goal collapse against St. Louis, and then gets the late goal after the insertion of Maxi Urruti. How big was that goal for Maxi, and how big was that win for Austin FC to start their season?
Yeah, one of those moments where it kind of feels more of a relief than a celebration. Austin FC in the opener against St. Louis, they scored twice, obviously only scoring once last night. But in my opinion, they actually played a better offensive game. It's just in that first week they had, 2 moments of individual brilliance that kind of made up for what I thought was a lot of, disjointed, sloppy play. Meanwhile, this past weekend, I thought they actually played really well building up. They created a ton of chances. They really looked a lot more like the team that we were used to from last season. But they needed, it took until the 88th minute for them to finally get that goal. And someone like Maxi Urruti, who, would have been the starting striker last year before the club was able to bring in Giazzi Zardes. Now you get to bring somebody like Urruti off the bench, and he's a guy who's proven, through multiple years in this league that he can get you a goal. And it's just an added piece for Austin that they can bring someone like that off the bench now and make a difference in a game like that.
Let me ask you, for FC fans now, are they at the point where they do understand this game of soccer a little bit more? I mean, the success that the team has had over the last 2 years. I mean, and especially last year when they hit their stride, they were fantastic offensively. But there's still some new guys that have joined this team, and it still takes a little bit of time. I mean, we're only talking about the second game of the year. Do the fans understand what they're watching? Can you tell that they're understanding the game of soccer a little bit more and understanding this team a little bit better? As time goes on, they will get better once they understand each other.
100%. I mean, and it's fun to meet people around town. You obviously have, the Los Verdes and the Austin Anthem fans in the supporter section. And those people, I'd put their soccer knowledge up, well past my own in a lot of cases, honestly. They're in the nitty gritty. They're reading every Twitter rumor for possible transfers. And then also you have, some of the more casual fans, some of, the lifetime Texas football, Texas basketball fans that are, interested enough in this team and interested in representing not just the University of Texas team, but also backing, a team for the city of Austin. And yeah, in now going on to year 3, you can absolutely tell, some of the people, friends of mine, people I talk to, who are understanding the game a lot more. And, they actually this year are expecting big things out of Austin, which, hadn't been the case up until this point.
He is Eric Goodman, covers the Austin FC for Austin Chronicle, does a really nice job of it. You follow him at Goodman on Twitter, very easy, great Twitter handle there, easy to find, at Goodman. Now, explain the week. Now, they get the win. They're 1-1, so 3 points out of their first 2 matches. They'll resume their regular season in the MLS coming up next week against Real Salt Lake. But then on tomorrow night, they're going to play the CONCACAF Championship League match against Vancouver. Explain how this works and it's not an MLS regular season game. It's a CONCACAF Champions League game for, as we say, those casual fans. How does this work and what's that all about?
Sure. So essentially, this is the biggest competition in North America. So you think about Canada, United States, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central America. You have teams. It's just like, the Champions League in Europe, bringing teams, at the top of all of those leagues in Europe. Same thing. Austin was actually fortunate to draw Violette, AC Violette from Haiti. When you think about they could have been drawn against, some of the tough teams in Mexico. They landed with a pretty comfy draw. The kind of backside of that coin is that, a team in Haiti is not going to be able to host, their end of the match. So they're actually playing this match in the Dominican Republic at a stadium where they can fit, the crowd, and where they have the technology that you need for a competition like this. And there was actually a lot of uncertainty about whether this club Violette would even be able to register enough players, get enough, visas to actually make this match happen. But from everything we've heard, that they were able to do that. They will have a team to field, and Austin now, kind of on a very short week, is going to take a bit of a limited squad. I expect to see a lot of players that we haven't yet seen to start the season, and it sounds like they're going to treat this as a game that they expect to win even less than full strength. They will have a return leg at home, so it's an aggregate score. You take what happens tomorrow night in Dominican Republic in terms of the scoreline, and that'll be paired with the same match in Austin in a week's time. And whoever's ahead out of those 2 legs is going to go through and potentially play León, which is one of those tough teams in Mexico that will be a really, really fun match if it could end up that way in the second round.
Eric, let me ask you about Brad Stuver. I mean, he's got his contract. I mean, when you watch him, and you've watched him over the last couple of years, what is it that you've noticed about him over the last 2 years that really he is really building on? I know he's long and tall, and everybody thinks of goalkeepers. You just got to be good. But what is it that he's doing that you've noticed over the last 2 years that have made him one of the best in the MLS now?
Yeah, and he's one of obviously he's a fan favorite. He's also been one of my favorites to kind of get to know through covering this team. He's just Mr. Cool. Mm-hmm. He's got the kind of confidence. He's got that confidence, but it never manifests as arrogance. And he's just a constant positive presence. He's probably one of the most positive athletes I've ever met. And I guess he's just somebody who has always had the ability to stop shots. And where he excels really is when he has to play the ball with his feet. Right. And that's something that Josh really prioritizes. So you kind of it's interesting. You look at St. Louis, one of their star players is their goalkeeper, and in MLS, that's a kind of a strange route to take, because there are really, really good goalkeepers that you can find. Give them an opportunity. You're not necessarily going to have to break the bank for them, and that's exactly what Austin found in Brad Stuver.
Certainly so. Eric, great stuff. We'll do this more often. Appreciate it. Glad you're up early with us and explaining this CONCACAF Champions League matchup with Violette out of Haiti, this one, and then the return match next week, and then they'll be at Real Salt Lake this weekend before another home game around the corner. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you.
You got it, boys. Thanks.
Eric Goodman. There you go. That's some good stuff on Austin FC. Yeah, it's essentially the CONCACAF Championships tournament. Top teams from each league. So in the MLS, Austin is considered one of the top teams, one of the top 4 a year ago. Played in the Western Conference Finals, so earns them a spot in the top 4. So you compete against the top teams in
North
all
America.
the leagues in North America during your own season, which creates a quick turnaround like this one, where they'll play tomorrow night ahead of their game against Real Salt Lake on Saturday. So we'll follow that at Austin FC. We'll certainly follow and be knee-deep in spring practice for the Longhorns, which starts today. And we did, somebody said, is Steve Sarkisian having a news conference today? No, Steve Sarkisian is having a media availability, which is kind of a curveball, different than normal. Normally the coach would have a press conference or, full media availability to preview the spring. Sark's going with, we'll have a practice this morning, and I'll be available for questions afterwards. It's all business over at the 40 as they get this thing cranked up. 3 practices this week for the Longhorns, plus they will open up with the Pro Day, Buck. Pro Day with the Longhorn, all draft. 5 Longhorns went to the Combine. All the draft-eligible players will be at Pro Day on Thursday afternoon.
That is cool for young players when Pro Day comes to your campus, and you're coming in here as a freshman, and you're coming out of high school and you're here for the spring, and you watch that, man, you're talking about getting your juices flowing and getting ready.
Well, I'm assuming there'll be a good number of head coaches and GMs here for this one. Obviously, Bijan Robinson, if you missed it, he did his 40 yesterday, ran 4.6, did what he needed to do, looked fine.
I called it.
And then you did. That was your call, wasn't it, Ty? 4.46, 4.46 in the 40. And then he did an interview with NFL Network in which he confirmed he's not going to be working out here.
I'm done.
He's done. He's done his work. He did run a slow time or something happened. He could have run again here, but he said, no, I'm just going to be there to support my teammates and visit with teams.
And while those GMs and some of those coaches are here, Kelvin Banks will be walking around and they'll be going, oh, my.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my.
Well, look, I mean, Sark's trying to recruit this thing and follow in the footsteps of Nick Saban. Nick Saban recruits on the idea when he's talking to high school players and their parents, hey, we got pro scouts at every practice we have.
Right.
Pro scouts come to our practices because they know this is where the talent is. Obviously, Steve Sarkisian's got a ways to go, but he's trying to get it there as well. A guy like Kelvin Banks.
They see him walking, they're going to go, wow.
Well, and that's that you can look at the schedule. They're going to have practice Wednesday morning. They're going to have the pro day Thursday afternoon, and they'll practice Friday morning. I'm assuming a lot of those NFL personnel will hang around and see one of those practices
for sure
to start to see what's coming. From the University of Texas as well. And Kelvin Banks will be one of those guys. And Quinn Ewers, the quarterback, will be one of those guys they'll be looking at. Arch Manning, some of the receivers, obviously, and some of that defensive line talent. So there you go. We'll come back when we do. Ty will lead us through the hot or not topics from the weekend, all the sports, and also, for the first time, Chris Rock unloaded on Will Smith and the Will Smith family. That's coming up on B&E. Yeah, hot and not for sure from the weekend. There was plenty of it. How about freaky performances? Anthony Richardson, the Florida quarterback, Buck, at 6'4" and 245 pounds. Ran a 4.4. Set the NFL Combine record for a vertical jump, broad jump, huge hands. Showed the pieces that can make a franchise quarterback. But and it's been called, and factually, it's the most athletic quarterback workout ever at the Combine at tight end size.
Yeah, he's got some work to do because he can't throw it in the ocean if he was standing at the end of the dock.
He's got work to do on his accuracy. So, well, boy, the starter kit's pretty impressive, but can he play quarterback is a big question. C.J. Stroud effortlessly throwing dimes all over the field at Indianapolis. He was impressive from the quarterback position. Also, we mentioned Darnell Washington, the tight end, Bijan Robinson, and Devin Achane at running back. So it was one of those weekends, and, we'll see if that shuffles some draft boards. We'll certainly discuss it as it comes forward. Tomorrow is the day for franchise tag deadlines.
I thought Roshan would be faster.
Just under 4.6, which I think I don't think everything I've read doesn't hurt himself. I mean, it's what most people expected. He's a one-cut runner and not a speed guy. I mean, the Devin Achane thing. I mean, he was a track star in high school. And there was a thought he could break the all-time. But could he go for Chris Johnson's all-time running back record and combine record? But he ran low 4.3s, which. He's a speedster,
just
an
low
explosive player.
4.3. He can fly.
He can fly. But a lot of fun stuff from the NFL. Always good to discuss that. Also from the Your World of TV, your girl Hoda Kotb is back on the Today Show today. You'll be glad to know. And for the first time since last year's Academy Awards, Chris Rock went after Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. He did a Netflix stand-up routine live. I think it was live or was streamed. It was first time it was available on Netflix, and set some records at Netflix for people watching it. And at the end of it, he went into the whole Will Smith thing, and essentially, in a way, a comedian would. A lot of colorful language. Essentially said, his wife Jada Pinkett hurt him a lot more than anything I ever said about her with her affair with the guy, whatever his name was, August Alsina.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went into the behind-the-scenes fact that he was much more mad at her than he was me, but he decided to slap me. He's got to hit me for, essentially.
Because you were there.
And he had some pointed words for Jada and for Will Smith. And so the whole thing, people have been waiting to hear his side of it, and that was his way of doing it because he's a stand-up comedian. And if you've seen it, it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. It's a good chuckle.
And he feels better about himself now.
Well, that's what he does, though. He's a stand-up comedian. That's his job, is to do satire and tell jokes. That's how he's made his living. And so eventually he was going to do a stand-up routine, and it was going to include that conversation.
Oh, there was no doubt about that one.
For sure. Ty, you saw it. Were you hot on it?
Yeah, I liked the entire thing. I thought it was really funny.
Oh, I didn't see the entire thing. I saw the highlights of he with Will, but so the whole thing was good.
Yeah.
And that was it was only like 5 minutes. The
very end, yeah.
The very end he devoted.
There's a few mentions of him not wanting to piss off another rapper throughout the other.
He called him Suge.
Called him a rapper.
Yeah. He called Will Smith at one point Suge Smith, like Suge Knight.
No, really?
Yeah. The Fresh Prince and all that.
Come on now.
Yeah. So that went on over the weekend in addition to all the sports that went on. What else are we hot or not on, T.Y.?
Ja Morant back in the news after a recent string of questionable decisions he's made on social media and on the local courts around Memphis, beating up teenagers and whatnot. But over the weekend, he appeared to flash a handgun on an Instagram Live video after he was already, taking a lot of heat for him beating up a teenager at a local Memphis pickup game. And he decided that he's going to take a step back to focus on his ongoing healing process, and there's not really a timetable for his return.
He needs to get into the dark.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers.
Come on now.
Well, he needs to grow up, and that's pretty simple. And we talked last week, and
bringing the heat with him.
I mean, the conversation surrounding college athletics with Jalen Carter and the Brandon Miller situation at Alabama. These are two young stars who, on the same night in January, were a part of bad judgment that led to the loss of life of three different people. They weren't at fault, but at the same time, they were in the wrong place, wrong time, and put themselves there. Ja Morant is not much older than those two young guys.
It's true.
And he's a young superstar who needs to grow up and realize that, with your talent comes expectation. How you're an NBA player, my friend. Grow up.
And realize that you're going to have eyes on you.
And if you have people surrounding you who don't have your best interest,
you probably need to get rid of them.
You need to get rid of those guys ASAP. And that's on you. You are who you roll with. So if you're still rolling with dudes that take you a wrong direction, then don't roll with those dudes.
It's true. that you can change.
Control your controllable. You can control that. Who do you hang out with? Who do you surround yourself with? Surround yourself with people that are going to help you elevate. And, he has a chance to be one of the best players, best point guards ever in the NBA if he stays on a good path. But obviously the other path would not be good. And he seems to be on that one right now, at least in a lot of choices he's making. Ja Morant with the Memphis Grizzlies. Kevin Durant looking good with the Phoenix Suns. We'll get to all that coming up, plus the other top stories today. Congratulations to Texas women's hoops. They're the champions of the Big 12. Put it together for Monday. What a Monday it is. What a weekend it was. A lot of things in the rearview mirror that we need to discuss. The Longhorn men and women's regular season basketball years are in the books, and a lot to like about both. We'll certainly talk about Texas hoops. NFL scouting combine in the rearview mirror as well now. 5 days of performance in Indianapolis. There were some freaky performances. We'll discuss the risers who helped their stock the most. And I think the Chicago Bears come out of the draft as a big winner. I'll explain that here coming up. Also in the rearview mirror, Buck, the Longhorns baseball team and their trip to Cal State Fullerton. That did not go well.
No.
This is a team that's they're good in spurts and phases, but they still have a lot of work to do to be a complete team and really be able to compete at the top of the Big 12 Conference at this point as they drop 2 out of 3. Coming up, though, it's a busy week because looking through the windshield at Longhorn Spring Practice starting today. First of 15 workouts. We'll certainly discuss Texas football, and we know that tomorrow is the final day that you're open to put franchise tags on NFL players, so that's really going to crank up here in the coming days. We also know it's Big 12 men and women's conference tournament time, which will lead to Sunday and Selection Sunday. So, man, it's a busy weekend recap and a busy week to look forward to, Buck, with a lot happening. And developing story out of Lubbock, Texas this morning involving college basketball, which we'll talk about. So it's one of those really, really busy Mondays. We appreciate you being with us to start your 6th of March and hope you had a great weekend to crank this thing up. You said you watched a lot of golf and a lot of dudes running in their skivvies.
Yeah. Big dudes flying around.
Big dudes flying around.
Yeah, I was so impressed with the big guys, man.
Well, we were talking about Roshan Johnson in 4.58 as his 40 time. But remember, he weighed in at 235 pounds.
Yeah, he's not a 220-pounder.
Well, and that's the thing about Bijan, right? Devin A-Chain ran his 40, but he's under 200 pounds. Bijan's, good 220, rock solid, and ran 4.46, which was plenty fine for the NFL folks on hand. He's plenty fast. The breakaway speed is there, but we know what he's about, the total package and all he brings at that position. But Roshan, I think he's a different type of back, but the right team that loves that one-cut runner who will run with physicality. That's going to be Roshan Johnson for sure. But, a lot of big dudes running fast. And I thought the reason I say the Bears are a big winner, they own the number 1 pick, and all the quarterbacks who performed very well. There wasn't one guy that didn't look – Anthony Richardson had the freakiest workout ever for a quarterback and, showed some inaccuracy issues, but at the same time showed great arm strength and just a toolbox full of ability. Will Levis, who I thought you said you were pretty impressed with, he the ball, we know he's got a big league arm, and he's a big guy, sturdy, and looked the part. And then C.J. Stroud, who I favored as my pick as a Texans fan, I thought he was just outstanding. He fancies himself a ball placement specialist.
Yes.
And that was on display. And that's not always easy when you're throwing to different receivers than you're used to, different environments. And a lot of guys like to do that at their pro day where they're throwing to dudes they know. C.J. Stroud made it look easy. Plenty of zip. Everybody was wowed at Will Levis's arm strength along with Anthony Richardson, and C.J. Stroud were lined up and threw it 60 yards down the field with ease, and it was accurate at that.
Yeah, he looks like a real live quarterback. Just walks in and just starts playing.
And he and Bryce Young are the top 2. I don't think that changes. But why I say it's exciting for the Bears. Indianapolis may trade up to number 1 to take one of the quarterbacks. Houston will take the next one. I still hate that they don't own that number 1 pick because they'd be in the position to just take the quarterback they want. Now the Bears have that luxury, and the reason I say they're big winners, and I think we'll hear this moving forward. Last year there wasn't a quarterback that anybody was talking about at this point. Kenny Pickett was the first quarterback taken.
Yeah, and they were barely talking about him,
and that was kind of a reach. A lot of people thought there wasn't a quarterback standout. There are 4 now, and all 3 that performed this weekend. Well, and Bryce Young didn't throw, but he weighed in at over 200 pounds. And it was 204, so he alleviated some of the size issues people have. So he solidifies himself at the top of the draft. C.J. Stroud does the same. But the performance of Anthony Richardson along with Will Levis, well, now there are 4 quarterbacks. And the reason I say the Bears, because if you're sitting at Vegas at 7 in round 1 and Carolina at 9, right? If you're in those 2 spots, you now have to consider the option or the opportunity that Detroit at 6 and Seattle at 5 may take a quarterback. I think you have to at least think that way as a general manager. Because if you're Pete Carroll was talking about it last week, if we're sitting at 5, we don't draft this high very often at all. We're a team usually drafting back at 20. we were fortunate enough to draft Russell Wilson in the third round, and he helped us win get to a couple of Super Bowls. We'd have to consider quarterback. Well, now if Stroud and Bryce Young are off the board at the top, and you're sitting there at Seattle, and you're like, well, we have a choice between Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, and we don't have to play them immediately. We can play Geno Smith, who they have to sign, by the way.
Right.
We don't have to force him on the field. Detroit would be in the same spot at 6 to say, you know what? It's the most important position in the game. We're sitting here in the top 6. And both of those picks, by the way, the Seattle pick at 5 and the Detroit pick at 6 came via trades. They acquired those picks. Detroit's pick came from the Jared Goff trade with Matt Stafford. That's the Rams pick originally. And the Seahawks pick is originally Denver's pick.
Yeah, and teams like Carolina, they look like they just want to get young. They don't want old dudes that'll hang around for a year and then leave.
Well, that's why I say
they want a quarterback that's going to be around for a while.
Well, that's the point with the Bears. That now, if you're Carolina or the Vegas Raiders, you may have to give up a huge package.
That's right.
To go all the way up to 1 to get the quarterback. Because you now have to consider that, man, we may be sitting here at 7 in Vegas, and they're gone. All 4 of them are gone. All of them. And Levis and Richardson probably aren't ready to play immediately. So can the Bears now? And you have to ask, do the Bears want to drop all the way back to 7 or 9? But at the same time, if they give you a massive package of draft capital and players and other things that you can go to work with, Bears are in a good place. Or you sit there and you take the best player available. But I think most league heavyweights believe there's a 75-80% chance the Bears trade that pick.
Now, is the kid from Georgia is he dropping? Is he truly dropping?
Jalen Carter?
Yeah.
I don't believe so.
No?
No. As long as those charges stay misdemeanors and he was just a part of a drag race that went terrible and hadn't been drinking, which it doesn't appear he was, I think it's going to be called bad judgment, and he's still going to be picked as one of the top 2 defensive players taken.
His car, no contact with the other car?
No. No, that investigation's been done. He was just cited with reckless driving and racing. And those are misdemeanor charges. And again, whether you agree with that or not with the NFL, that's going to be the stance, that there's no felonies here.
Yeah, I got that.
This is a kid making a bad choice, and unfortunately, it led to he was part of something that ended up 2 people losing their lives. But as far as his draft stock, I mean, he doesn't get out of the top 5 in my mind. Now, unless quarterbacks go 4 of the first 6 picks, Will Anderson is the one defensive player taken. He could be, but that would be not because of the off-field stuff, but more the circumstance of the draft. I think with the way that go, but I don't. Jalen Carter is still, he and Will Anderson are the 2 top.
I mean, the people
players.
that have him listed as their guy. I mean, he's still their guy.
Yeah, Arizona could take him at 3. I mean, without a doubt. The Bears could take him. If the Bears drop back, that's why I've talked about the Bears maybe not trading all the way back to 7 or 9.
If he does drop a few.
Well, the Bears could go back. I mean, think about Chicago at 1. You're in a position, if you trade with Indianapolis and you go back to 4, 1's going to be because the Colts come up to 1 to take Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. Houston takes the other.
Right.
Arizona's going to take Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. You're going to take the other one. You're going to take either Will Anderson or Jalen Carter, so you still get one of the 2 premier players on the defensive side of the ball, and you pick up whatever the Colts give you to come up there. But Bears are sitting good. Bears.
Oh, no,
because they're going to have the fact that there are 4 quarterbacks now that are seen as high first-round picks. That's going to be to their benefit because teams are going to be clamoring to try to get up there. How much will they give up? You can play one against the other, or you just drop a couple of places and still get one of the best defensive players. But the Bears can completely rebuild their team here, potentially, because again, they already have a quarterback. They and the Arizona Cardinals are sitting in a spot where they're not drafting for quarterback, and they're picks 1 and 3. So both could be trade opportunities for trade downs. All right, let's get to the other headlines, though. It's a busy Monday. There's so much happening. Let's get you caught up on the weekend that was. Top Gun Equipment Rentals bring you the news. And, Longhorn basketball. Big Saturday for the Horns on both sides as they wrapped up their regular seasons, men and women's. Big congratulations to head coach Vic Schaefer and the Texas women. They beat down K-State 80-52 in Manhattan. They clinch at least a share of the Big 12 regular season title. And because of their sweep of Oklahoma in the regular season, they are the number 1 seed at the Big 12 tournament. It's the program's first regular season Big 12 championship since 2004.
I couldn't be more proud of them. It's a great win for us. It's a great championship for this team and this program. It's hard to believe it hadn't happened at Texas in 20 years, but this is why we're here. This is why these players chose to come to Texas. It's why I chose to come to Texas.
All right, congratulations there. Rodney Terry and the Texas men also closed out their regular season emphatically as they first honored their 5 seniors at Moody Center and then proceeded to play possibly their best 40 minutes of basketball this season, certainly in Big 12 play. They clamped down and ran away from third-ranked Kansas 75-59, wrap up the 2 seed in the Big 12 tournament. Jabari Rice and Tyrese Hunter combined to score 43 points. They were a dynamic duo in the backcourt. Texas defense was the name of the game as well. They forced the Jayhawks into a 36% shooting day, held them to 16 points below their season average at a frenzied Moody Center.
We've been waiting all year for this one right here. I tell you, where we put it together defensively, we put it together offensively. We got offense off our defense. You know, we guarded a really good team for the first half and held them 24, one of the top teams in the country, to 24 points. I mean, it was just awesome to see.
Certainly was. Longhorns, as we said, the 2 seed at the Big 12 tournament. Ahead of the conference tournament, league released the coaches' choices around the conference for the all-conference honors. And how about Texas guard Jabari Rice? Was there ever a doubt he was named the league's 6th man of the year? Marcus Carr named to the first team All-Big 12 starting 5 alongside the conference's player of the year, Jalen Wilson of Kansas. Kansas State's Jerome Tang was named the coach of the year in the conference. Former Westlake Chaparral KJ Adams from Kansas named the league's most improved player. Also from Big 12 basketball, a developing story out of Lubbock this morning where Texas Tech men's basketball coach Mark Adams has been suspended for making an inappropriate, unacceptable, and racially insensitive comment to a player last week during a coaching session. That, according to Kirby Hocutt, the athletic director who has issued the suspension for Mark Adams. We will follow that story into the conference tournament. Big day for Texas football. Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns will hit the field this morning for the first week of spring practices. They'll practice this morning, Wednesday, and Friday. Also going to hold their pro timing day coming up on Thursday afternoon, so a busy week. Not a good weekend for the Texas baseball team out in Fullerton, California. Early season struggles continue. They dropped 2 out of 3 to Cal State Fullerton, including a gut punch 11-inning walk-off loss in yesterday's rubber game. 6-5 was the final. They fought a 4-7 on the year. Only game they won was the Saturday contest. No struggle for the 9th-ranked Texas softball team. They made it 9 wins in a row. Beat Louisiana at McCombs Field 8-3 yesterday. Outside the 40 Acres, Austin FC earned their first 3 points of the season. 1-0 win over Montreal on Saturday night. Golf, Kurt Kitayama outplayed the best players in the world, including Scotty Scheffler, to win the Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill. All right,
so Coach Adams, they've been looking for a reason to get rid of him.
Well, there's been reports of tension behind the scenes all year.
It just seemed like a team that was just, I mean, they were too talented to be as bad as they were, I believe.
Well,
and it's something within the program.
They finished 5-13 in league play.
Yeah,
last place with Oklahoma, and they lost a lot of close games. We know that.
They had a lot of guys leave the program. A few guys left the program.
Kevin McCullough, and Terrence Shannon both left. And look, I mean, obviously we know when Chris Beard left to come to Austin, Mark Adams took over. First year with a loaded roster, it went very well, and that is pretty common when an assistant. You know, this is something the Longhorns are going to have to ask themselves about Rodney Terry and the big picture in the long term. One doesn't equal the other. I'm not saying that, but in sports, you see the assistant take over and everybody rides that wave of positivity, but it's about the long haul.
Sure.
You're looking at the next 10 years of your program. Is this the right coach at the top? That's really the question that has to be asked in all cases. But, you know, Adams, he's 66. He was the defensive specialist for Chris Beard on his staffs, but that doesn't make him a great communicator and a great head coach. You know what I mean? And I don't know what's going on here, but in this case, if you're wanting specifics, apparently he was, you know, he says he was quoting a Bible verse when he was instructing a player and encouraging a player to be more receptive to coaching, and you know, but the Bible verse that was referenced is about workers, teachers, and parents, and slaves serving their masters. Adams immediately addressed it with his team and apologized. I think once he said it, he realized, you know, you can coach, but
better read out the rest of that verse.
Yes. So, I mean, essentially was, I'm your master, you work for me, that kind of stuff. I don't know the exact words used, but if you read the exact Bible reference, then yes, it did use the word slave, and that is what is being addressed right now at Texas Tech. And there are some basketball insiders on the college side who believe he may be out. Big picture there. I don't, as you said, are they looking for a reason? Was just the straw that breaks the back after a really bad season in year 2 for Mark Adams? We'll see. Because remember, a lot of people were surprised when Mark Adams was named the coach when Chris Beard left.
That's true.
That they just promoted from within, and you know, Kirby Hocutt was adamant that he was the right choice, and so we'll see. We'll see where that goes at Texas Tech. And just strange, weird year with, that's going on now. And, of course, Chris Beard is no longer the coach at Texas, and reports abound that he's looking to get back into coaching somewhere. We've heard Ole Miss, heard, other schools.
Lubbock will come up.
Oh, we've already had the text about 100 times.
Of course.
Would Chris Beard go back to Tech? I mean, I don't pretend to know how that all plays out. I do think I know Chris Beard wants to coach again, but where and when, we'll see. But that's where that stands. But congratulations to the Texas women. They're the champions of the Big 12 Conference. Vic Schaefer, I love that quote, him talking about that's why we come to Texas. We came here to win. But it's been 20 years since they won a regular season on the women's side. Baylor with Kim Mulkey dominated for so many years. Oklahoma's been really great at the top, and now here's Texas stepping in and stepping up, and they are the champions.
Just a start for Vic, really.
Yeah, they're getting better. I mean, I know they stubbed their toe against Baylor last Monday night. Other than that, they've been really strong here the last 8 or 9 games of Big 12 play. Texas men, that's the game. Rodney Terry, you just heard him say, that's the game we've been looking for, where we play 40 minutes of
they came out sharp,
intense basketball, and Kansas. I mean, I wondered how Bill Self would handle that. I do think there's a natural human nature that maybe the focus and intensity is not as great, knowing you've already locked up the conference. But at the same time, they came to play. They played their starters. Jalen Wilson played like an All-American. They just missed a lot of shots, and the Longhorns played great defense.
Mm-hmm.
And they missed everything in the first half. I mean, they could not buy a bucket. They were missing bunnies in the lane. They were missing threes. They were missing jump shots.
Well, he wasn't substituting like we thought. He had his guys in there.
Yeah, he did. We went for it. And, despite their poor shooting, it was still a ball game into the second half. And I thought in the second half, the defensive intensity never waned for Texas, even when Grady Dick started knocking down some threes. Grady Dick didn't score a point until late in the basketball game. They did a great job on him. And this is where I give Rodney Terry a lot of credit. If you go back to the game in Lawrence, we talked about, at least my mindset was, Jalen Wilson's going to get his. But you got to stop everybody else. You stop everybody else, you feel really good. Jalen Wilson's not going to beat you by himself. And instead, Jalen Wilson, they did a great job on Jalen Wilson at Kansas, but everybody else beat him, right? Grady Dick had a huge game. DeJuan Harris, the point guard, had a really big game. They had guys off the bench that stepped up and had big games. Well, in this game, they let Jalen Wilson get loose a little bit. He had his typical all-Big 12. Yeah, 23. Made shots all over the court and was good. But no one else did anything. They didn't have another player in double digits. That's credit. I think that's a smart defensive game plan. And then on the other side, the Longhorns did a lot to like. I mean, Tyrese Hunter is seemingly, on the rise. He found his shooting stroke. He looks more confident. Jabari Rice is Jabari Rice. He's just a hell of a player. And those guys were rock solid in that second half. In the long run, it felt like, I think there were a couple times where Kansas got it down to 6 or 7.
Well, that's when the big guys, once again, didn't get in front of their guys. They get those little ticky-tack crazy fouls where they're not positioned the right way. They try hard, but they just don't get positioned the right way. But they did. They got away with it. They had fouls, but they didn't have a bunch of them.
They did that. Well, I thought they did a great job of guarding, not fouling against Kansas. I thought that was.
They've been struggling with that.
They have
recently.
Well, and Rodney talked about the great day of practice they had on Friday, and he felt like there was a real intentionalness to their practice on Friday, and it carried over to the game. They wanted to make amends for the losses in Waco and in Fort Worth, and it's tough to win on the road in the Big 12. But that's the team that can beat anybody in the country, right? That's the third-ranked team in the country, and you beat them by double digits, and you lock them up defensively. You did yourself. But the question then becomes, can you carry that defensive 40 minutes of intensity on the road into a neutral site? Because you won't play another home game. The Longhorns have been great at the Moody Center. That home court advantage that was talked about certainly came to fore. I mean, they were 17-1, 16-1 in the Moody Center this year. But as we said, they're not playing on that floor again. They won't play a game there again. They've got to play with that level of intensity in Kansas City this week, and then wherever they end up come March Madness time. I do think they've locked up a 2 seed. I feel pretty good based on all of the bracketologists and just what, because if you go back to the NCAA selection committee last year, and they had announced this net system and the quad wins and 1, 2, 3, 4 and all of that. I mean, the conference tournaments hardly mattered the last couple of years with the committee. It was really pretty much set. The conference tournaments maybe moved some seeds that were at the lower end, but the top end was pretty much set, and I think that's going to be the case here. I think your 1 seeds, Buck, are Bama, Houston, Purdue, and Kansas. And I think your 2 seeds include Texas. I think they're in that mix. I think Baylor has a chance to maybe be a 2 seed on the 2
They're a
line.
solid 3, though.
And then a 3 with K-State. I mean, I think Texas is a 2, and I think Baylor's either 2 or 3. And I think Texas has a chance as they can play like that. They'll be fine moving forward. But at the same time, we've seen them not look like that, right?
Yeah.
Recently, last Wednesday, they didn't look like that. But it was a 2-point loss at TCU, and the other part of that, Buck, they got out rebounded badly in Fort Worth. They took care of the boards in this game against the Kansas Jayhawks, so that was good to see. Only concern would be that Marcus Carr once again played 36 minutes and scored 6 points. He only took 9 shots, which I thought was better for the team. That maybe he wasn't feeling it, but he let Tyrese Hunter and Jabari Rice kind of run the show and be the offensive forces for Texas.
Or you can say he didn't take any bad shots.
Yeah, no, he was 2 of 9 and 0 for 3 from 3-point land, but the 5 3-pointers were open looks. And this is where we talk about maybe his legs are a little gas. He's first team all Big 12, but he and Timmy Allen combined for 12 points, which would not be a good recipe. But one of the things I saw was the body language between Tyrese Hunter and Jabari Rice. It feels like they're kind of asserting themselves and realizing, hey, just because Marcus and Timmy aren't bringing it, we can bring it. We can be the guys. And those two have kind of, at least in that game, grabbed a hold of it, and I thought did a nice job. Arterial Morris came off the bench, and I thought gave them great minutes on both ends of the floor.
So they don't play till Thursday now?
Thursday at 6.
Thursday at 6
o'clock. Yeah, they'll get a little time. And they'll play the winner of the Oklahoma State game Thursday at 6 o'clock. Texas women will play their first game on Friday. And I think that 1 o'clock is when they're going to play as the number 1 seed in the entire tournament. So congratulations to Vic Schaefer and the ladies. Congratulations to Rodney Terry, because the regular season meat grinder of the Big 12 is in the rear view, and I do think the Longhorns, it's fair for me to say the regular season's over. Give it an A- for everything they've gone through, the ups and the downs, the coaching change. A-, easy to finish with 23 wins, 8 losses, 12-6 in Big 12 play, the sparkling home record, and what I think will be a 2 seed come tournament time when we get to the big dance. Can they, beat a 15 seed and then beat a 7 or a 10 seed, which would be the next game, and play into the second weekend? That becomes the challenge for this team. But first things first, they got to play in the Big 12.
Yeah, they got to play in this tournament, and they can't be punchless in this tournament. They have to come out on Thursday, no matter who they play, and still play well defensively right off the bat.
Well, and you do know that a team like Oklahoma State or Oklahoma will be playing for their lives.
Yeah, whoever they play, you're absolutely right in this conference.
You're playing for, this goes back to that human nature conversation.
Yes.
You don't have a ton to play for.
Because you're in.
You're in, and you're going to be a high seed. And,
you can't let that come into play.
That's the psychology of these conference tournaments. Some teams are all in. Some teams are kind of cruise control. We'll see. And I don't know if that played into Kansas's poor shooting game on Saturday.
No, I just thought they played hard. I just thought Texas played harder.
I don't think they didn't play hard. I just think the mental focus, the human nature element of the whole Texas is playing with their hair on fire, and we're champs already.
Well, Texas is playing because they play different when they play at home.
They do. All right, we'll come back. We'll take your thoughts on all of those conversations we've just had in that segment, from the Combine to the headlines to the Mark Adams situation and the Longhorns, all part of a jam-packed Monday. Coming up, we'll reset the Craig Way Report. We've got Salacious Gossip in your Blitz, and more on a Good, Bad, and Ugly Monday. B&A with you on a jam-packed Monday. Spring practice underway. Spring practice number 1 is underway over at the 40. Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns hoping to have a healthy 6 weeks of football. That's number 1. But also very competitive 6 weeks of football to build a starting lineup. And finally, really for the first time that I can remember in double-digit years, Buck, they've got real position depth in key spots where guy 2 can push guy 1 and force him to be better, or else he's going to come take his job. I don't know that we've seen that across the board like they have right now, really at all positions, except for maybe punter. I think they're pretty solid on the punter who has come in from Stanford, the grad transfer, right? But even some of those young defensive backs, Buck, that we got to see play this year and show what they could be on the back end for Texas. Well, you went out and brought in a 3-year starter from Wake Forest. That's and right. Jalen Catalon to say, no. We're not just giving you a spot. You got to earn that spot, young guy, and to provide depth and really, depth because injuries are going to happen in a long football season, but also to build that competition that you got to go earn that spot at receiver. And you mentioned the running back position, who emerges as the top running back because we know Bijan and Roschon were in Indy over the weekend doing their thing. That spot open, and someone's got to become the primary ball carrier.
The more carries Brooks gets, the better he'll get. Better he'll be.
Jonathan Brooks out of Hallettsville is the lead candidate. Also, there's Jaden Blue, who we've not seen. But he plays.
He does?
But he's, again, you're playing behind Bijan and Roschon. We're not going to see much of those guys, but obviously we thought we might see Jaden Blue in the bowl game, which we did not because they didn't really have the ball a lot, and they didn't run the ball a lot in the bowl game. So Jaden Blue is there competing along with Jonathan Brooks. Keelan Robinson is an established player for them, but we know he's more of a –
And the freshman.
And then the freshman. Cedric Baxter Jr. out of Florida. He'll be there, and he's already here. So we'll be getting the update to see where my buddy Mike Craven has got a picture already taken down there. He's covering it, and he and I are going to record our first podcast with the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Radio Network podcast coming up tomorrow night, Eyes on Texas Football. So we'll look forward to that. He's got his spot right there under the freeway, outdoor on the fields.
Bubble's still there.
Bubble right behind him. So spring football in Texas is here, and we've got plenty of NFL, plenty of college basketball. This is, guys, I would agree on the basketball team, but since it's the last Big 12 tournament, maybe they go for it. Yeah, maybe. You show up and play, and you play until you lose. But I do believe for this current team, as deep and as veteran as they are, I think playing, if you start playing Thursday at 6 and you win and you play all the way to Sunday, I don't think 4 games in 4 days is the best thing for this team. I could be wrong. I think this team, I think they're secured a 2 seed with their win over number 3. Kansas, which I think is going to be more high. Kansas has more quad 1 wins than any team in the country at 15. To win that game, to beat them like they did, that was a very impressive resume finalizing win in my mind. To beat Kansas, to win 11 quad 1 games this year, I think they're secure as one of the top 8 seeds.
As long as you play and you play hard.
Yeah.
And if you lose, you lose because you're still playing these teams that are the best in the nation. So that can happen to you. But if you're going out there to take it easy because you got to get ready for the big tournament, I don't like that.
Well, Rick Barnes used to have that mindset, and you could agree or disagree with it, but Rick Barnes hated the Big 12 tournament. He didn't think it did anything for your team. And we just played all these teams for 2 months. 2.5 months.
I'm watching how Rick Barnes' team in Tennessee is struggling right now this time of the year. Mm-hmm. It's a bad time to be struggling.
Yeah, well, that would be the argument for Rodney Terry is, hey, that was our best performance on Saturday. We went 40 minutes with a national champion contender.
Let's keep that up no matter who we're playing.
Let's roll that right into game number 1. And, one of the goals you can have is get to 25 wins. But if you get to 25 wins, that means you'll be playing 3 games in 3 days up there because you'll play Thursday, that'll be 24. If you win that, you play Friday, that'd be 25. And, we know how tournaments go. But, seeing this team last week on the road at Baylor and at TC, they looked kind of weary. And Marcus Carr certainly looks like he's lost his legs on his jump shot. He continues to have a hard time with that. Timmy Allen continues to because I'll say this, as good as they played defensively on Saturday and as good as the backcourt was, they made their free throws, they made clutch shots. Let's all admit their half-court offense is still a struggle bus, man. Their half-court offense can really bog down. And a lot of times it's when Timmy Allen is trying to create something and it's dribble, and then Marcus will do it. I don't really know what they're doing as far as cutting. And Jabari Rice, the one guy, when he's in there, he will cut. He will slice. He will move. He will try to get himself They'll set picks, but
he'll go to the rim too.
I just don't know what their offensive identity is a lot of times in the half court when they get, because one of the things that they did so well on Saturday on top of the defense was turn that defense into transition baskets.
They get out and run.
I mean, the fast break points were outstanding, and I know that's been an emphasis for the Longhorns this year. Their fast break points were 17 for the Longhorns on Saturday, and that's good. You take 17 fast break, but in the half court sets, they can still. We know this team can bog down and go in these droughts of not scoring, right?
Now, people are going to say Kansas had nothing to play for, but, they know they're going to have their number one seed. I thought they played hard. They just got outworked.
And missed shots.
Missed
a lot of shots.
And got D'd up.
They did. And got to be fair to Kansas. I mean, they missed some shots. I'm like, he missed that? Really?
Marcus Carr's been doing that for the last 3 games.
But, Jalen Wilson, I mean, who was it? The point guard really struggled. DeJuan Harris, he only scored 5 points on 2
And he's
of
had
12.
a good year.
He's had a great year. He's Defensive Player of the Year in the conference, according to the coaches yesterday. DeJuan Harris was 2 for 12. Really struggled with his shot. And he missed, he does those little runners.
Oh, yeah.
He runs, little finger rolls. He missed a bunch of those that were right at the cup and played 37 minutes. So he was a part of Kevin McCullough with 3 of 8. They missed a lot of shots. But Texas played their best defensive game. For 40 minutes, I felt like, but their half-court offense still not sure what's happening. Before we get to the Craig Way report, Buck, back on the scouting combine and the best players coming out, it doesn't change that dramatically. It solidifies things. We always talk about that, right? A Bijan Robinson workout solidifies the tape. Okay, yeah, he's fast. He's really good. Another guy, Buck, you mentioned Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, I think he's outstanding. I think he's the second best back in the country.
I think he is.
1 and 1A, really.
And the Longhorns' current running backs coach both of these guys. I mean, he stakes claim to that because he had Jahmyr Gibbs at Georgia Tech as a 1,000-yard back before he transferred to Alabama when Tashard came here and coached Bijan Robinson.
But Jahmyr Gibbs understands the passing game like nobody's business.
No, he is.
When he comes out of the backfield or when he lines up as a slot receiver.
Sudden player.
Yeah.
Well, and I was thinking about this yesterday because we've talked a lot about Cowboy fans dread the idea that the Eagles would take Bijan Robinson with the 10th pick because they also have another first-round pick. I'm watching Jahmyr Gibbs thinking, you know what, we can take the best player available at 10 and we can get Jahmyr Gibbs at 30. Because at 30, we can take that dude and we get our running back to replace Miles Sanders. And Jahmyr Gibbs is a scary player. Zach Evans is a good running back too. I mean, those are your top 3 right now at that position. But Bijan at the top of it for sure.
I watched a big kid from Minnesota who's had an unbelievable career but had 2 knee injuries. He can still go.
Oh, Ibrahim?
Yes.
Yeah, he's down the list of backs, though. Remember, this is a deep running back. When you get all the way down and a guy like Tank Bigsby out of Auburn, who's just a tank.
And the Charbonnet kid's good from UCLA.
I mean, this is a really good running back class.
It is.
I mean, Zach Evans is a guy that we know came out of Katy High School, TCU, to Ole Miss, but he's seen as maybe the 3rd best back in this draft. The kid I like a lot is from Pittsburgh, Israel Abanaconda.
And the kid that I didn't think I would really like is the kid from Tulane, but boy, can he go.
Tajay Spears, yeah.
Wow.
No, he's one of those you're going to look up in a few years and go, man, where'd he go? Tulane?
He went to Tulane?
And you'll say, well, remember when he tore up USC in the Cotton Bowl?
That's exactly what I'm going to say.
Absolutely tore the shreds out of
Crushed
USC.
me.
I remember.
And
you remember because you had them.
Yeah. Tajay Spears is a good player and looked the part yesterday and this weekend for sure. But, yeah, I mean, it's a good running back class. And running backs have been devalued. We know that. And that's just kind of the way the position has gone. But, as we said, the fact that there are going to be 4 quarterbacks rated at the top of the draft is always good for a draft for drama because last year there were none. And this year there are 4 guys. And Anthony Richardson putting on a real special performance is going to force people to take note of him and say, you know what, he's raw, but, man, he's got a lot of things I can't coach. I mean, he's got a lot of boom to him. He could bust, but there's a lot of boom there. And Will Levis, we kind of knew that going in. The kid from Kentucky, we knew that, and he looked the part. C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young are going to be the top 2, but those next 2 now solidifying themselves as top 10 kind of picks, maybe top 12, really shakes up the draft. So the quarterback room is good. The running back room is really good. The tight end room, the tight end draft this time around, Buck, is really good.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm calling Richardson a project, but I think he just is.
He is a project.
He's a project, right? I mean, if you don't have accuracy in the NFL, that's a project, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, which is, again, We'll see him at his pro day. I'm assuming he's a much more accurate quarterback at his pro day. With the one thing about throwing at combines is you're throwing to receivers you aren't familiar with and all those things.
But you can throw within the ballpark.
Sure. Well, I thought Anthony Richardson made some good throws on Saturday. He threw some that were wayward, but he also made some really good throws. But yes, it is fair to say Anthony Richardson is a project. He is not a walk-in starter in the National.
He's not like C.J. Stroud, no.
Like C.J. Stroud, ball placement
Yes.
expert. Yes, Bryce Young can lead your team tomorrow. Right? I mean, that's what you're looking for. But the other two, Levis and then Richardson, that's why I keep pointing out Seattle and Detroit at 5 and 6. Those are two teams that could take them, wait on them, and, then is Jared Goff really the quarterback for the long haul in Detroit? I mean, I don't know. Is Geno Smith really the long-term answer in Seattle? Well, these two guys, you're sitting there at 5 and 6 with picks you traded.
Yeah, you have to get
trade.
those guys while you can get them.
Yeah, which then leaves the Vegas Raiders and Carolina kind of in a lurch going, oh, no. All the quarterbacks are gone. Now what do we do? We'll see. This is going to be a fun offseason, to say the least.
Yeah, and for me, I wish – I know you're a Texans fan, but if I would be hoping that they can – I know you got to get these guys right here. If you can get one or two, you're fine. But if you go down to 3 or 4, you might as well go ahead and tank another year and try to get the guy to USC.
Oh, Texans?
Yeah, just tank it. Go ahead. You're going to – well, then again, they don't know how to tank.
They didn't tank properly this year. They tanked well enough all the way to the last game.
Yes, you can't trust them in the tank.
But, again, the two ready-to-go quarterbacks, I think, are Stroud and Young, and those you're going to get
they'll
one
take
of those
either
two.
one.
I still, because people say, well, yeah, that's what we said. But, no, I mean, I've gotten about a million tests. Yes, I said good Katie for Zach Evans. You went to the North Shore. My apologies.
Mm-hmm.
North Shore for Zach Evans, the running back. And
then numerous colleges.
Well, two, right? Well, he took forever to pick his college. Was the first thing, did he not? Zach Evans was a meandering recruit.
And he was initially recruited. He committed a few different places out of high school.
Yeah, he committed all over the place. Then he ended up at TCU, and then he transferred to Ole Miss. But he's still a talented player.
Yes, he is.
Still a talented player. Seen as one of the top 5 backs in the draft this year. Bijan, head and shoulders, is the best. But I was mentioning that tight end is a position. It's just weird how not weird. It's just the cycle of the draft. Last year there wasn't a top end quarterback and there were no tight ends to speak of. This year there are as many as 4 top quarterbacks and maybe 5 tight ends, at least 4 when you consider what goes on with Michael Mayer at Notre Dame and Dalton Kincaid out of Utah and the kid Luke Musgrave from Oregon State, and then what Darnell Washington did. As far as guys who had a wow combine. Darnell Washington was way at the top of the list, the tight end from Georgia, because his short shuttle numbers were ridiculously athletic for a man his size at 6'6" and almost 270 pounds. His receiving skills were off the charts good, and then he ran a 4.6 in the 40-yard dash. So just ridiculous. That Georgia team's pretty athletic, Bob.
Boy, they got guys who can really fly around.
Think about the recruiting that Kirby Smart has done. When you've got who had the best, again, this is the Olympics, the Combine.
Yeah, those dudes have a different velocity when they come.
Yeah.
And they hit you.
Well, I mean, we were talking on Friday about Nolan Smith, the kid off the edge who was hurt this year. Just, freak off the edge. Then you got Jalen Carter, who's seen as the best player in this draft by most everybody as far as overall freakishness and talent at defensive tackle. And now you throw Darnell Washington in there. Because remember, they had who's the kid 18 that Georgia's got?
Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers, who's going to be a top pick next year at tight end.
If not the top pick.
Well, Darnell Washington was playing alongside him. And those two were just devastating.
And who's a cornerback to play for Georgia that I didn't think?
Keely Ringo.
His speed was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I was expecting him to be a 4.5 guy. I think he ran 4.4, low 4.4s.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, high 4.3s even for Keely Ringo. But, yeah, I mean, that's how you win back-to-back national championships.
Yes.
You suck by all those great players.
That's got to be a hell of a practice when you practice against those guys.
Oh, well, that's what we talk about the Longhorns. I mean, competition, steel sharpens steel. And those dudes going against one another, yeah, you're going to get better doing things that way. Keely Ringo ran, he's rated as one of the top 5 corners, along with the fastest player at the Combine. That was DJ Turner out of Michigan, Buck, 4.26. 4.26, fastest player there, Christian Gott. So the corner class strong. You know what class is probably the weakest of all the positions, Buck? Safety. They don't see Brian Branch out of Alabama, who's kind of a box safety, and then there might not be at safety in the first round. of this draft this year. Hey, we'll come back. When we do, it is going to be your blitz time. Let's be strong here. 447-3776. Start the week in a good way. Also, we'll hit a little salacious gossip ahead of that. But first, it's Craig Way. No games, just gossip. Brought to you by the icy cold frosty Bud Lights. Hope you had some out at the barbecue cook-off. If you're out there over the weekend, 192 teams in competition. Trying to get some of the winners here this week. But Bud Light there, Bud Light at the Moody Center for the final home game for the Longhorns. They finished strong with that win over Kansas. There was a lot to enjoy. Beautiful weekend in the ATX. Nothing quite like an ice cold Bud Light on a perfect days like we had this past weekend. More of those to come. And we appreciate our friends at Bud Light. Buck, we mentioned earlier in our Hot or Not segment that Chris Rock did unload on Will Smith and Jada Pinkett in a new stand-up special that debuted on Netflix over the weekend. That's one of those, you need to go watch it and you can hear the whole, it's a whole hour and a half long of stand-up, but the last 5 minutes or so, he lays into.
He go just Richard Pryor on them?
No.
Come on. I know he had
it's
to.
tactful like normally Chris Rock would, and it's funny. It sets up, he's setting up jokes. He's a stand-up comedian.
Okay.
He did say at the end, though, that he was asked by a lot of people why he didn't retaliate. And he said, I don't know if he was faking this or not, but he had an emotion. He was welled up with tears a little bit in his eyes, and he talked about how I didn't retaliate because I have parents, and they always taught me never fight in front of white people. And he dropped the mic. Never fight in front of white people. So you can go watch that. Chris Rock had that over the weekend. Couple of cleanup messages. Craig Way reminded us on our text line that this is not the last Big 12 tournament for the Longhorns.
They got one more to go through.
One more next year, yes. Texas football, this is coming up their last season, but yes,
right.
There will be a Big 12 tournament next year that will include the Longhorns and the Sooners, and then it's off to the SEC in 2024. Be interested to see, because we know how the schedule is for the 14-team football side of things. What will the schedule look like for basketball next year in the rough and tumble Big 12, which, by the way, adds Houston and Cincinnati. Houston's the number one team in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Currently, and won yesterday at the buzzer. Also, to clean this up from our combine conversation, Buck, your guy Keely Ringo, you were talking about the Georgia corner.
Yes.
Ran 4.36. 4.36.
Man.
Also,
has that guy been a starter since he was a freshman?
Yeah, well, remember, the Longhorns were recruiting him heavily out of the state of Arizona and had a good beat on him, but he ended up choosing Georgia and won 2 natties because of that choice, and now he's going to be a top pick in the draft. Also, we were talking about the running back Jahmyr Gibbs. He ran 4.36 as well. 4.36.
And that dude can catch it, and he can just disappear on you.
Bijan, of course, at 215 pounds, ran 4.46, but still pretty darn fast. But, yes, there you go. This is Remember the Alamo. This is our day, Buck. This is our day to remember the Alamo. You know which musician has an incredible museum, an ode to an artifacts from the Alamo? Could you guess?
That would be Phil Collins.
Yeah, Phil Collins.
Yes.
Exactly right. 1836, the Alamo fell after a 13-day siege by Mexican forces led by General Santa Anna.
Santa Anna killed everybody, did he not?
He was a ruthless
killer. He left
yes.
none at the Alamo. No children, no nothing,
We
right?
got him, though.
Yeah.
We got him.
Yellow Rose got him. She got him.
Bet you didn't know this. 192 years ago, 1831, Edgar Allan Poe kicked out of West Point.
Come on, Poe.
Whoever knew he was at West Point? Did you ever know that?
No.
Huh. Interesting. But yeah, the Alamo.
About 30 years ago today, Mike Tyson's first professional fight.
Yeah. 1985. Knocked out El Hector Mercedes.
Yo, Hector.
Where do you think it was? First round. See ya.
He was knocking fools out, wasn't he?
Dude, he was devastating. In his prime, you're the boxing expert.
I was scared of him on TV when he was just that on TV.
Me too. And I was just a kid.
Man.
Yeah, he was pretty amazing. Hey, let's get to your Blitz and remember the Alamo Blitz. How about that? Let's go.
Here we go. First Blitzer, talk to us. It's Tavo is back. Come on. Where were you for Black History Month? What did you disappear on Black History Month? Now you're here for March?
I had to go under hiding, Toto. I went down to the basement, but I came up for air, Toto. I'm back. I'm here.
Nice.
Hey, Toto, so check this one out. we're having a shortage on eggs, right?
Yes.
Here's what I've been doing, dude. I'm doubling down. I'm holding on to my eggs, dude. I'm polishing them every day, Toto. So now, Toto, what I went out and did, I have my big cock rooster, Toto. He's on my hands, Toto, 24/7, Toto. I won't let him have to come and eat, Toto.
Come on, man.
Cock rooster, Toto.
No.
All day long.
No. Those eggs are expensive now. Later. Next Blitzer, you're up.
Did Tabo just say he had to go in hiding? No comment. Hey, but let me be the first one to say, remember the Alamo, you mofos. But Bucky,
yes, sir.
You said the Texans don't know how to tank. This is the Houston Rockets.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, they ripped the Spurs yesterday. What are we doing?
Well, they ripped right into them, didn't they? Next Blitzer, you're up.
Football, basketball headliner here. Is it true Quinn Ewers going to throw on Pro Day to get in the QB race for next year? Basketball, really? Are we going to give them credit for beating Kansas after they already secured the championship in the Big 12? And baseball, I was encouraged this weekend. They led in every game, but they blew the lead. We're still on track.
I see. Another moral victory. Next Blitzer, you're up.
You plan to fail if you fail to plan. No more TCU game plan. No more Alamo game plan.
He's going to talk about running the rock in the spring. Next Blitzer, you're up.
Coach.
Yes.
Yeah, can you tell E to get his facts straight? We all know that there was one survivor. Come on, Jurassic Monty made it.
Oh,
he was not at the Alamo.
Remember the Alamo.
Next Blitzer, you're up.
Hey, we wouldn't have to remember the Alamo if John Morant was right next to Davy Crockett shooting all them federal lights.
Wow. Next Blitzer, you're up.
Yeah, hey, this is Pastor Smasher.
What's up, Smasher?
And, hey, General Santa Ana should remember these nuts.
Remember the Alamo, mofos.
Oh, boy.
Hey, interesting. Until that Blitzer said it, could Quinn Ewers throw to the draft-eligible Longhorns?
I don't.
Well, he wouldn't be in the draft. He's just throwing.
I guess he could.
Right? They got to have a quarterback throwing the ball.
Somebody's got to throw it to him. You're right.
And as far as I know, the Longhorns don't have any quarterbacks that are going to be draft eligible, so got to have somebody.
They usually bring in like local smaller universities, right? Like if Mary Hardin Baylor had a quarterback, that was.
Well, I mean, all I'm asking is if I'm not saying they're going to or they're not.
But
it wouldn't be illegal for Quinn Ewers to step out there and fling the ball around.
I don't think so.
To throw to but I was thinking, what receivers will be there running? The Longhorns have any? I mean, Bijan's already said he's not working out. At least he told the NFL Network that. I guess Roshan is going to be running routes as a running back.
No, this is where you get. I mean, if Texas State doesn't have it, you get guys like you said from Texas State. Sam Houston State
will
would
be all the
show
Longhorns, but I'm trying to think who that is going to be that would be running routes and. But yeah, Quinn Ewers, I guess, could be the. Remember back in the day when you were playing with your buddies, you'd have the all-time quarterback. Yeah. That all-time quarterback guy. That could be Quinn. All right, we'll see. I don't know if that's illegal. Let me know. It's B&E on the Horn. We'll come back. One more hour to go. Big conversations continue. There are plenty of them. And if you like the game of poker, table poker here in the state of Texas, you want to be with us here coming back. Monday on the Horn, B&E with you. What a week weekend it was. What a week it's going to be. And excited to be here. Good, bad, and ugly on a Monday. Recapping the busy weekend. Longhorn men and women's basketball wrap up regular seasons in strong fashion. Women clinched the Big 12 championship, a share of it, their first in nearly 20 years. Texas men close out with an emphatic win over Kansas, maybe their best 40 minutes of hoops this year. They clamped down and ran away from the Jayhawks to wrap up the second seed at the Big 12 tournament. We've got a lot of Texas football conversations with spring practice up and running. I just saw this little note that I'm assuming, Buck, here from Steve Sarkisian on that Malik Murphy not participating, at least in the first day of spring practice. He didn't throw in the open window that the media was allowed to watch. Quinn Ewers was the number 1 QB, Arch Manning at number 2. We'll hear from Sark coming up. No word on
if he's still injured.
Not sure. So obviously that's of note. And also of note, our buddy Jeff Howe listening to the Blitz there, unfortunately, driving in for Light the Tower coming up at 10 o'clock. He let us know that underclassmen cannot participate in pro day.
Oh,
so
okay.
He says
good.
in the past, David Ash and that ilk have been brought in to throw to the receivers.
I over the weekend, I also had my son let me know who tomorrow will have his 39th birthday.
Your son's turning 39.
AJ will be turning 39.
AJ Godbolt, happy birthday, my friend.
Unbelievable. And that he let me know that Ricky became a grandfather.
Ricky Williams?
Yeah.
Ricky Lynn Williams?
Yes. Eric Lynn Myron became a grandfather. I'm like, you're talking about getting old in a hurry.
Comes fast.
Grandfather, a grandpa. Grandpa Ricky.
Grandpa Ricky. Well, what a fun morning it's been. And look, this is a kind of a curveball, but it's a good one because we talk about the best of the best coming out of the NFL Scouting Combine. Who's performing? We got one of the best sitting right here with us. If you love high stakes poker, Texas Hold'em poker, I'm assuming is where we're at. Our guest in studio, we have a very familiar voice in here with us. He is Rick Epstein from
Absolutely.
Under the Lights and covering high school football, but he's also an avid poker player and fan of the game, and he has brought along with him this morning Doug Polk.
Doubling down with Doug.
Doubling down with Doug Polk, who is in here with us. Doug, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on today.
If you're a poker fan, you know him. He's won 3 World Series of Poker bracelets. It says you're over $4 million in winnings for your poker prowess. Widely considered one of the best heads-up poker players of all time. You also have founded Upswing Poker, the world's leading poker training site, and you're a partner at the Lodge Card Club here in town. And you got videos. Everybody's looking at your YouTube videos. How are you, Doug?
I'm good. I moved to Austin a couple of years ago. I really enjoyed it. It's a great area. Happy to be here. I was in Vegas for a good number of years, and now that I'm starting a family, just had a kid about 5 weeks ago. So
got out of Vegas and came to Austin.
Thank you. It just seemed like maybe Austin a better place to raise kids than Sin City. Yeah, I think
good
that
move.
was probably a good move.
Well, people who know poker know you and know the Lodge Club. And Rick, you mentioned that there's a big game today. A match coming out. What do we call them? Matches, games?
Yeah,
tournament.
Spring Mayhem tournament. The main event. Somebody's going to walk out of there with $250,000 today, and the live stream starts at 5 p.m. on YouTube. So check it out if you can't. If you can. So there
nice.
you go.
And you're the voice, right?
I'm one of the voices.
Nice. Now the Lodge Club is on I-35, right?
Yeah, exit 251 in Round Rock.
Okay. Well, Doug, part of it you being here to talk a little poker, but also there's a session happening over at the state capitol, which part of what you're pushing for, and Rick, is the laws in Texas regarding poker to be amended and really just brought into upgraded, I guess would be the word that you're looking for.
So poker in Texas is kind of strange because you'd think that it would be really openly embraced at all levels, being that, again, it is Texas Hold'em. So you would think here in Texas that would be completely fine. But the issue is that the way that the laws are written here, they're fairly vague. And essentially, city by city, you can have a different stance on what they mean. The way that most of the state has interpreted that is that poker is great here. We're going to allow it. You look at places like Houston, Austin, San Antonio. They all openly support poker and love poker. And then you have some other places where there are lawsuits pending, or maybe you're in a smaller town and the police just decide they can shake a room down because the laws are vague. And really what we want is clarity in the law, to have specific language that we can know what exactly to follow, and also that poker can be protected here. We're not looking to expand poker in any capacity. What we really want to do is just protect the game as it stands today. So we banded together and formed a group called Texans for Texas Hold'em. And we actually have a bill in the House this time around. It's bill number 2345. That's right, an open-ended straight draw. I hope we get there, Rick. But anyway, so this time we're going to be doing our best to try and clarify the language in the law, and then hopefully it's a little bit more clear moving forward.
Now, how does that work, Doug? There's been, and Rick, there's been numerous poker houses in the Austin area. Believe me, I know that. I know about the poker houses, and but it's weird, and as you said, it's kind of vague. I mean, the house has to get a certain percentage or per hand, or how does all that stuff? How does that work? I mean, what's the legal ramifications of if you have a place, which percentage you can take of each poker hand? How does all that stuff work? Is that what you're trying to clarify?
Exactly. It's a great question. If you look at the way poker works in most of the country, you have a game and there's money on the table, and the card room will take some money off the table. It's called the rake.
Mm-hmm.
In Texas, raking a game is expressly illegal. So the way that clubs make money is they have membership fees and they take seat fees. Anything that doesn't take money off the table has basically been the way it's been enforced, which is very unique to Texas. I actually think it makes our poker here kind of great in a way, because one of the problems if you go to Vegas, the casino is constantly taking money off the table, right? Well, in our games, nothing comes off the table. So the stacks get really big, and then you get to play some really big pots of poker. And I think that's actually one of the things that really makes poker special and great here. But that's more or less the defining characteristic, really. Is money being taken off the table or not? If the answer is no, then at least the way that it's been interpreted so far in the state, then you're good to go.
It's interesting, Rick. You followed this, and I know you play when you hear Doug talk. I mean, I'm sure COVID took a hit out of the clubs at some level when that was going on, and then you've got the battle with online poker and the ability to do it automatically. Where is the state of the clubs, and where do they stand right? Because I know they were growing like crazy, then COVID hits and maybe took a step back. Where are they now?
The lodge actually shut down for 2 months during COVID. Everybody did. I mean, all businesses did. But it's growing. It's packed. This weekend it was packed. The great thing about the lodge is we bring so many people from outside of Austin. At the table I was playing with this weekend, of the 9 players, 5 were from outside of Austin. So that's just tourism that's coming to Austin, and they're going to be spending money on hotels, on restaurants, on retail experiences. So it's just packed. The lodge is I believe it's the largest poker room in Texas right now.
Yeah, it is the largest in Texas. I think we're the 5th or 6th largest in the world. And when we have tournaments like the one that we have today, you see people come in from, I would say typically it pulls regionally. So we get a lot of people from either Houston or Dallas or San Antonio. But you also see people come in from other states, and you even see people come in from other countries. So it definitely helps with tourism. Also, we pay all our taxes. We do everything the right way. And then we also provide, a couple hundred jobs to local people here in the Austin area. So we think that we have a good positive impact on the community, and we really bring a lot of people in to support local businesses.
Yeah, and that's what they want. They want positive stuff in the community, because there are gambling places that will bring. I grew up near Jersey. When they start gambling down the Jersey Shore, it got to be kind of shaky down there with crime and everything else. If this is an opportunity to help out the city in any way, I think you take that chance. I think you do. I always thought that Austin, eventually, if they did allow gambling, whether it's poker or whatever, the capital city, you got one of the most beautiful downtowns you could find. I thought having an OTB place downtown here would be unbelievable, with great dining and everything else that goes into it. I know half of Congress and the House would be down there probably every day before session, but I just thought this was as this city grows, I mean, it's the 11th largest city in the country. This is not just some podunk city anymore.
Right.
I mean, this is, they've got gambling in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where I'm from. I mean, the Lehigh Valley has gambling in it. And now you're talking about the 11th largest city. And I don't particularly see anything back in Pennsylvania that tells me the wrong kind of people are hanging around the casinos. It looks like the right kind of people are hanging around, the ones with money.
Well, so I like to differentiate us a little bit from just gambling as a whole, because I think playing poker with your friends at the local card room, it's more of a gentleman's game. You know, you have people, it's a strategy game. There's a lot of thinking involved. So I like to view us as kind of our own separate branch compared to some of the things that I think do cause problems in the state, like all of the 8-liner rooms that are popping up everywhere that they're trying to crack down on.
Mm-hmm.
This is not just, these are not people that are just showing up and gambling and in their own world. This is a social event with your friends. A lot of the people there. I mean, we've got people who come down to our card and play their daily tournament, who fought in Vietnam, and they play in all of our tournaments, and they're there, and they're proud to play at that room and have that kind of experience. So I do think we're a little bit different. Gambling as a whole, it's kind of coming up as a big issue across the whole country.
Sure.
There's been a lot of pressure, even in this session here in Texas, to try and push gambling forward. We don't want to do that. We just want to protect the current industry with clear laws and regulations.
I think that's a good differentiation because there's a big push from a lot of money to Jerry Jones is involved in the idea of bringing casinos.
He wants gambling.
Yeah, he wants gambling. He wants the money. He wants the profits.
He wants the machines.
That's surprisrising.
He wants
the
the bandits
of the world, and we know the big names, the heavy hitters that are pushing. And I've been told just from behind the scenes that they're either going all in or they're not. They're not going to piecemeal this thing. They're not going to separate one sport form from the other. They're going casinos, and it sits at the desk of the lieutenant governor right now. But you're being clear, Doug, that Doug Polk is with us, and you want to we want clarity in what's happening. So it's a statewide rule, not a city by city rule.
Yeah, so it's a statewide law. It was passed, I think, about 50 years ago, and it's just not very well defined, frankly. And so it kind of leaves this interpretation up to your local district attorney or the sheriff or whoever wants to step in, they can. And the way that translates is that, like, for example, there was a room, the name of the room escapes me now, but it was in a smaller area of Texas, and they just came in one day and said, nope, what you're doing is illegal, and we're going to take all the money. And if you try and push back, you try and get your money back, we're going to indict you. And so they tried to get their money back, and they indicted them. And so when you see stuff like that happening in local areas where people can't defend themselves, look, like, as a card room owner, obviously I want there to be poker here, but what I really want is just clarity on what are the things that are going to be okay and not okay, and we need to have language in the law that is specific and clear so that everyone can follow it and we can know what the rules of the game are.
Seems to make sense. The session is hearing the arguments, and you have your group pushing for that clarity within the legislation. Doug Polk is with us. Doug, you said you grew up in Vegas, or mostly Vegas. At what young age? What age did you know you were pretty good at poker?
So when I was a little kid, I would see my dad get all the quarters together and they'd play 5-card draw, and we'd all go to the moms would all hang out in the kitchen and talk, and the dads would play 5-card poker, and I thought that was so cool. I want to play poker one day when I get older. But I didn't really find poker until I was about, I guess I should say 18. Is that probably what you should say?
Go 18.
18. So I found poker. I played video games at a pretty competitive level in the U.S. as a kid. And then someone said, you're so good at this game, but you're making no money. You should just play poker. And at first I thought, that's gambling. Why would I get? And then you realize poker is versus other people, not versus the house. And so if you're just better at poker than the other guy, you can win money. And from that moment forward, I realized that I thought I had something special to be able to kind of take it to the top. And, there's always a degree of luck, right, to be able to make it to the high stakes world. But if you're dedicated and disciplined and you approach it in the right way, then you can find success at a lot of levels.
He has won 3 World Series of Poker bracelets, over $4 million in winnings, widely considered one of the best in the world at Heads Up Poker. What is the key to that? I mean, don't give away trade secrets, but what did you mean? Because this is where I say, like, the online poker, I'm sure, is a thing, but you got to be sitting at a table with other people to really be.
You got to be disciplined.
So, do you have any good
got to be there, doesn't it?
So my background actually was online poker, and then I moved over to playing live poker afterwards, like at actual tables with people. I would say you need to have an unbiased way of looking at the game. I think people get in this mindset of they just think about themselves and themselves and themselves. I like to look at it when I'm playing, just pretend I'm not even there. If I saw someone with this hand, what should they do? And look at it in this unbiased way and not have emotion and feeling attached to I just look at it. If I saw someone else playing, what would I want them to do? What's the right thing for them to do? And really take all of the emotion out of it, because the thing with poker is it can be emotional when you win or lose a lot of money. It's the people that, regardless of winning or losing, they just play that next hand the right way. Those are the guys that are really going to be winning in the long run. Because if you just get upset and you see red and you just start doing crazy stuff, you're going to lose more, right? Yeah. That's not how you get.
Well, that's like my guys on a Monday night poker game.
It's
all about the money with them. It's not. It's the camaraderie for me. I just want to be around the guys. I'll give them my money. If they want my money, I'll just give it to them before we play. But those guys, it's all about the money. It's like golf. It's all about the money, right, E?
Yeah, you don't even like golf. You gamble, hole by hole. So the lodge, and so you said you're a part owner of this, or the owner of the lodge and the card room, largest in the state of Texas. I did not know that. We need to learn more about this. And this thing is, the poker community. I mean, obviously, it being on ESPN, I'm sure has helped grow it. But I mean, since you've been in it, have you just seen this, astronomical growth of poker, or where are we going?
Poker boomed in 2007 when a man named Chris Moneymaker won the main event. By the way, when I got into poker, I thought that he had to have changed his name afterwards. How could a guy with the last name Moneymaker win the biggest poker tournament? It just seems impossible. But no, he actually was named that before he won it.
Well, there's a guy who lives here named Tito Beverage who runs the largest spirits company in the world now, too. And that's his actual name, Tito's.
Incredible. But anyway, so there was a boom around that time period. But in 2011, actually, the federal government clamped down on poker and banned it in a pretty big way. Anyone in poker calls it Black Friday. If you ask someone in poker, where were you on Black Friday? Every poker player knows their exact location because it said FBI seizure on the sites. So you would all go, I'm going to go play some poker. Boom, FBI seizure, or DOJ seizure, whatever it was, DOJ. But anyway, so poker actually took a bit of a dip after that, and players couldn't play online anymore in the U.S., and it had a negative impact on poker as a whole. But I would say in the last 3, 4, 5 years, there's been a resurgence of poker because we have so many people creating good poker content. I think the poker YouTube genre, people have YouTube channels where they create content. I've made a lot of content myself in the last 6 or 7 years. But then also you have so many shows now. Like, for example, we have a show at the Lodge. We just renovated a full new nice studio set to be able to have our show. A lot of different players are trying to create good poker content that people can watch at home and see people play poker. And it's one of those things where as there is more quality content people can enjoy and watch and see online, then the game grows. So I think we're seeing a little bit of a mini poker boom, sort of combined with the fact that across the U.S., more and more states are becoming pro poker, or maybe pro even larger gambling themes in general. But I think we are looking at a bit of a poker boom right now, and the Lodge is at the heart of it here in Austin, Texas.
That's awesome. Rick, from your perspective on that, poker is a card game, right? It's a competition. It's like Bucky we all like to compete on the golf course. We like to compete at everything that we do, and this is just another way to do that, and it's a lot of fun. And it is gambling for sure, but there's a lot of things we do where we put a little money, put some stakes on the line.
Right. No, I agree. I take poker. I've been playing for 35 years, and I call myself an enthusiast. I just like to go, and if I lose, I come back the next day. I'm not playing with money that is going to affect the household, and I like to have fun. I see my friends there, so that's how I take poker. Other people take it a little bit more serious, and there's all points in between.
From your enthusiast,
if they miss a semester or two, so what? We'll make it up later.
Payment,
I actually missed 7 semesters because of poker.
Really?
Well, that's right off for you.
Yeah.
But Rick, to hear Doug Polk from the professional side of things, that's won a lot of money doing this and been one of the best in the world. You're an enthusiast. Have you seen the Lodge growing and new people all the time and coming from all over, as you mentioned?
And the Lodge is just about 5 years old, and it started off in an 18-room table card room, moved to a 62, now 82 plus tables. The growth is just unbelievable. And what makes the Lodge so good is, poker players want to go where the action is. Where are other poker players going? And that's what makes the Lodge continue to grow, because that's where all the players are.
Yeah. And from the other side, with the session that's happening, for folks listening to this, hearing this, that agree with you that there needs to be clarity in the state's, treatment of poker and its laws, what can they do? How can they be behind it?
Yeah. If you want to check us out, we're on social media, Texans for Hold'em, on all platforms. You can follow us and get updates for what's going on. We usually put some kind of weekly recap out there. Some weeks, you guys know how it works in the legislature here. Some weeks there's nothing happening, but some weeks we get some good updates. Of course, you can donate to help pay for the effort as well. We're spending quite a lot on lobbyists just to try and make this a reality. So you can either follow, get updates, and then even if you just want to help in any kind of way you can, reaching out to your state rep, reaching out to either the member of the House or the Senate here, and let them know that you want to see poker, the language clarified, and have rules that make sense that we can follow, and make sure that we protect our game here in the state. Make sure you reach out to your representatives.
It is Texas Hold'em, after all, as you accurately pointed out. It's called Texas Hold'em. Might want to keep Texas on board with the poker. And how can they follow you, Doug, and all that you do on YouTube and the tips you're giving in the Lodge?
Yeah, I'm at Doug Polk Vids or at Doug Polk Poker, and on all the different platforms. You can definitely check those out. And the Lodge is, I think just the Lodge Card Club on everything as well. Should all be pretty easy to check out and follow if people are interested.
And you can always find Rick Epstein under the lights.
lights.
You know, it's
Under
funny.
The lights.
I one day I was commentating with Rick, and I go out to my car, and I knew he did radio, but I didn't know exactly what he did. And then I turn on the radio just to find a game, and the first two words I hear are Rick Epstein when I turn the radio on. I'm like, oh, Rick's kind of a big deal here on the
There you
radio,
go.
huh?
I got lucky.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. Hey, thanks, guys, for coming in on a busy Monday as is, but that's good stuff to know, and appreciate you making the trip on in. We'll come right back. We'll
Thanks,
pick up
Doug.
these
Thanks,
top
Rick.
stories on a Monday.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. We'll be right back. There it is, Viking Fence. Viking Fence, the premier fence company in Austin, Texas. They have been since 1972. Locally owned and operated, your go-to for any fence need. Whether it's for a lot of folks like you that listen, it's a wood privacy fence for your home, right? Maybe it's fallen down through some of these storms we've been dealing with. It's just old and outdated. Looks like an eyesore around your house. Maybe it's the house you just purchased but needs some updating. Let Viking do that for you. They use that Western Red Cedar, only Western Red Cedar, 3 different grades, producing that top quality material for your wood privacy fence. They also pre-stain it ahead of time with their Ready Seal stain equipment that they've invested in. It's everything for your wood privacy fence. That's why when they install a Viking fence, that is the wood privacy fence out of their own mill, they'll put the longest warranty on it you'll find in this industry. They're so behind their fences and stand behind their fences, the workmanship, the quality. They're insured and they're bonded. They believe in what they're doing, and that's what you want around your home. And as I say, with their own equipment, they can mill it to your exact specification, design style. So it doesn't just not just a useful fence. It can become a design piece for your house, a statement piece that looks amazing. Go to the galleries at VikingFence.com, have a look at the work that they do and have done, and you'll find it right there at VikingFence.com. Also get a quote there. All of the departments there, the divisions of Viking Fence, 837-6411. Find them online at VikingFence.com. When you think fence in Austin, Texas, and throughout Central Texas, think Viking. Appreciate Doug Polk, world-famous poker superstar in the house. You love Texas Hold'em poker, you know Doug Polk, so appreciate them dropping on in. Good information right there. Also, breaking information coming out of the NFL. Let's get some breaking news. And this, according to the NFL Network's Mike Garafolo. He is, and Ian Rappaport, reporting that the New Orleans Saints are closing in on a deal with free agent quarterback Derek Carr. And not 1 year deal, a deal with free agent quarterback Derek Carr. Obviously, the Saints were the team he visited with while he was still employed by the Raiders. If you remember that, they gave him permission. People thought they were going to trade him to New Orleans, and then he said, no, I'm not going to be traded. Just go ahead and cut me. And he played the market, met with some teams at the Combine, Jets, Panthers included, and it looks like, according to those two reports at NFL Network, it's going to be the Saints.
Interesting, because I had him going to the Saints where he originally started out whole deal.
Yeah, he did his due diligence, and that is going to lead for people to opine that Aaron Rodgers is going to the Jets. That's what's been holding up this whole thing. That the Jets were ready to sign him as early as this morning. I read stories that the Jets, if in New York, that Robert Saleh, the head coach, would have signed Derek Carr a while ago, but the owner is waiting on.
No, because Woody wants Aaron Rodgers and wants to see how he deals with the New York media, because any publicity is publicity for a guy like Woody Johnson. Right. It just is.
The owner would see that as a bigger splash, and
yeah,
maybe it's a better move. I mean, Aaron Rodgers over Derek Carr.
Yeah, that's true.
And so,
but his diva stuff in the New York pressy, they'd love that because the Giants got plenty of it.
Sure. Well, the Giants got their own quarterback issue to deal with at this point with the Daniel Jones contract that they're trying to sort out. But that would lead folks to think that the Jets are indeed, because remember, there's no doubt the Jets have been interested in Aaron Rodgers and a trade for Aaron Rodgers, but there's also been the wait on Aaron Rodgers. His decision has to be made, right? He went into the dark. We had a lot of conversation about that. Did his retreat. The Packers are, by all accounts, willing to trade him if he says, I want to play. Because at this point, it feels like the decision with Aaron Rodgers is retire or play. And if he wants to play, the Packers are willing to trade him, and he's okay with that. And the Jets are the most likely scenario, so much so that way back when this all began, they hired Nathaniel Hackett, his former offensive coordinator in Green Bay, to be their offensive coordinator. So there's familiarity with the system, terminology, and all that will go with that. So it's a pretty smooth transition. At 39 years old, they hired him. People immediately thought, okay, well, that's the lure or to be ready for Aaron Rodgers. Then Aaron Rodgers wasn't sure if he wanted to play. Well, now does this move of Derek Carr inking a deal with the Saints indicate that Aaron Rodgers has let the Jets know, yeah, I'm coming back. I'll play. I'll do it.
So he's totally out. Green Bay doesn't want anything to do with him as a player any longer,
again,
right?
that part of the soap opera has yet to be played out, but both sides have made it clear that if he's wanting to play, that
he
they're
can
willing.
Stay.
I mean, so much so that this past week in Indianapolis, when their general manager Brian Gutekunst and the head coach were talking about, they all said Jordan Love needs to play. Jordan Love needs to. It's his time.
But if Aaron Rodgers wants to stay,
I don't think either side wants that to happen at this point.
So the coach and the general manager don't want him to stay.
I mean, I guess based on
they would
reading
rather
of
for him
all
to
of the
move
tea
over.
leaves
Yeah.
and just basic logic, if Derek Carr inks with the Saints, I think you can anticipate a New York Jets trade of Aaron Rodgers coming down. We know tomorrow at 3 p.m. is the deadline for franchise tags. Cowboys and Tony Pollard likely to be a tag situation. We know Lamar Jackson still far apart with the Ravens. Derek Carr. Who's the Giants quarterback?
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones has his. They're going to tag him. Is that going to, because the Giants are hoping or trying to get a deal done with Daniel Jones so they could use the tag on Saquon Barkley, and not have to sign Saquon to a long-term contract. All that is pending in the coming 24 hours. So, does this report that this thing's done in New Orleans indicate that Aaron Rodgers has let people know he's planning to play, and will he be traded to the Jets? What a bombshell that would be. And you could see the Jets playing this out. Look, they invested the second pick in the draft in Zach Wilson. I could hear, the argument from their front office that, what, if we get Aaron Rodgers for a year or two, Zach Wilson's still really talented, and he can play behind him and learn.
Mm-hmm.
He's just not ready yet. could there be Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years, then we transition back to Zach Wilson, or is Zach Wilson just going to be gone? There's a lot of people in New York that think he's see you later. He done. But we'll see. The quarterback days of our lives beginning to spin. I painted the weird conspiracy scenario earlier that if they do franchise tag Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, which is expected, the question is, which tag will it be? Will it be the exclusive tag, which means he's theirs, no one can talk to him, and he either has to sign it or not and play for $40+ million on a guaranteed deal for 1 year, or they put the non-exclusive tag on him, which would allow teams to negotiate with Lamar Jackson, and it would guarantee him just north of $32 million on a 1-year deal, but teams could negotiate with Lamar Jackson, and if someone came in and gave him a heavy deal, the Ravens would have the right to match it. If not, they would work a trade with said team, and it would include a couple of number 1 draft picks and more to acquire Lamar Jackson. I threw it out there. What if Daniel Snyder and the Washington Commanders come in, if it is the non-exclusive tag, and offer him a truckload of money?
They need a quarterback.
They need a quarterback. We haven't heard them in the mix for Derek Carr.
No.
You're not hearing them in the mix for these other quarterbacks. That's weird, right? That's kind of quiet that Ron Rivera, they cut Carson Wentz.
They could like Sam Howell.
Come on. Eric Bieniemy did not move from Kansas City to Washington to coach Sam Howell.
He's 1-0 as an NFL starter.
Well, let's be realistic. Eric Bieniemy, that's the other piece of this conspiracy theory, that Eric Bieniemy, there was a reason he left Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City to go be the offensive coordinator of the Washington football team.
And it's not for Sam Howell.
It's not for Sam Howell. It's not for Sam Howell. So,
no, it's to be the next head coach of the Commanders. That's what it's for, because Rod Rivera will be done after this year.
But your success as a coordinator in this league or a head coach depends on your quarterback. He's not leaving Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes for Sam Howell. That makes no sense. Did they make it known to him that, hey, we're planning to make a move on Lamar Jackson? That's our move. And that's been too quiet. The Washington quarterback desperation for me has been too quiet. We know the Jets are looking. We know the Saints. We know the Panthers.
We know all the ones
Vegas,
that are looking for sure, yes.
Vegas is all in. We haven't heard much from Washington other than that they cut Carson Wentz and they hired Eric Bieniemy. Think about this, though, from the Daniel Snyder perspective. He's selling the team. This is just my weird mind. Daniel Snyder is going to be out, right, of the Billionaire Boys Club, the 32. He's being forced to sell his team. Wouldn't he like to screw the owners just a little bit on his way out by giving Lamar Jackson
I would like to.
The guaranteed contract that nobody really wants to see again? They want the Deshaun Watson deal to be the outlier of all outliers. They don't want any – but, Daniel Snyder, I'll give him the guaranteed banger that he wants, and I'll give up a bunch of draft capital, and I'll sell the team to Jeff Bezos, and he can inherit that. A team with no draft capital, Lamar Jackson on a guaranteed contract, and it screws all the other owners because now there's 2 quarterbacks with guaranteed contracts.
We know one thing, it wouldn't bother Bezos. That money's not going to bother him if he had to drop it.
But see, that's the beauty or the curse of the NFL. It's a cap league. He can have all the money in the world, which he does.
Yeah,
he
could pay more than the cap. Yeah, he could pay him whatever they were trying to do, and then he'll be cap strapped here in a year as an owner.
That's exactly right, and that's what the Cleveland Browns have already discovered. We've given you the cap numbers. It's $50+ million that they owe guaranteed to Lamar Jackson, to Deshaun Watson this coming season and beyond.
They're already having to restructure that contract.
They're already having year one. Just like the Cowboys are in a position where they're having to redo Dak because he's such a huge cap hit for them right now. Remember, the Browns, when they cut this deal, they paid Deshaun Watson like $1 million last year. Nothing. Because his agent got everything he wanted. David Mulugeta, who's right here in Austin, Texas based, got him the $1 million deal just in case so when he was suspended, he wasn't losing a lot of money, right? He's only making $1 million, so you're not getting a paycheck,
right?
But that's not a lot. It's costing you. The money will kick in on this guaranteed deal, which begins now, which, as Ty said accurately, they're already trying to restructure because it's so onerous to their salary cap. Would Daniel Snyder, on his way out of Washington, make the power move? Because D.C. and Baltimore are not very far apart. Go get Lamar Jackson, bring him to our nation's capital, give him the monster deal, give up a bunch of draft picks. Baltimore gets the picks that they want, but now they need a quarterback. But again, the big stick it to the rest of the owners would be another quarterback on a guaranteed deal, because then every quarterback, Buck.
Oh, for sure.
Every quarterback. There'll be some that won't, but most quarterbacks, which will transition down to players. like just general position players. Oh, I want guaranteed too. They got
Wide
guaranteed.
receivers
Why
going to
can't I
ask
get
for guaranteed money.
No. We'll see. Just a thought that percolated into my weird head over the weekend. Because, again, Eric Bieniemy went to Washington for what? Coach Sam Howell? No, he didn't. Washington's been very quiet on the days of our quarterback lives front. Lamar Jackson is playing absolute hardball with the Ravens, who are unwilling to come off of his, to meet his guarantee contract demand. Could this land in a pretty interesting situation? We'll see. And now maybe we know Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Jet, and Derek Carr is going to be a Raider.
And who's going to be a Panther?
Who's going to be a Panther? Well, this goes back to a conversation we had earlier this morning. The fact that Anthony Richardson put on quite the show at the Combine and dazzled with maybe the most athletic, not maybe, the most athletic quarterback combine ever.
And they got the alleged quarterback guru there as the head coach now?
Who? What are we talking about?
For the Panthers?
Panthers brought in the quarterback guru and Doug Peterson?
Yeah.
Well, but again, the fact that Richardson blew up and, put on his athletic freak show, and Will Levis is there and had a good combine. Now there are 4 quarterbacks. Does Carolina or the Vegas Raiders, who, maybe miss out on these, the Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr conversation, would they be going up, trying to get up to Arizona at 3 or Bears at 1 to try to
whoever they get, they got to play. This is not come and sit. This is play. Or the guys that you're talking about, I mean, including Levis, these guys got to play, possibly.
Or you do, okay, we went up to get Anthony Richardson, but, Sam Darnold's going to be our quarterback in the bridge until he's ready, right? I mean, that's kind of how you play that out. But I think Anthony Richardson is further along as a quarterback than, say, Malik Willis out of Liberty, who went to the Titans,
agree 100%
right?
to that,
Right?
yes.
So you go, and there were a lot of NFL brass who left Indianapolis going, you know what, he's so athletically freaky that even though he's inaccurate,
we'll change our offense just for this dude.
We can still build an offense around that skill
Right.
set and then put up with the inaccuracies until we get him where he needs to. But we can, see Justin Fields in Chicago, right? This year when the Bears kind of unleashed him. And I do think Justin Fields.
It may not be fair. I may have seen just too many out patterns with him. I didn't see enough of the really good throws by him during the course of this weekend.
Yeah. He's got a rocket for an arm, but
there's no
it
doubt.
Kind of goes everywhere. Nuke LaLoosh at this point.
It's like the guy on the tee box when he hits it 16,000 miles to the right, just straight out to the right.
Went a long way.
Man, you can really hit it.
But if you missed it on Saturday, Anthony Richardson at 6'4", 244. All right, so tight, like Derrick Henry size.
Oh, yeah.
Ran a 4.4, jumped out of the gym, huge hands.
Big arms. He is built like a tight end.
Yes. And some would say throws like a tight end. But
yes.
Put him to tight end. But, yeah, he's built like that, but just athletically freaky that, like, on most any field he plays on, he'll be the best athlete on the field.
Oh, yeah.
So you could immediately build an offense and tailor it to that, a la Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, Jalen Hurts. But, the question for Anthony Richardson is, will he work at the craft between his ears? Will he put in the time and realize, this is why Jalen Hurts is improving. This is why Josh Allen got better. They put in the time it took to become a more accurate passer with the quarterback coaching. Are you open to the coaching? If so, I think you could make Anthony Richardson a draft pick and go get him. And that's why I mentioned Seattle at 5 and Seattle and Detroit at 5 and 6.
Yeah, especially where you have a quarterback.
Yeah.
You can sit him around for a year or
that's
two.
The luxury a team like Seattle's in. They have Geno Smith once they sign him. Now they'll keep him. Geno Smith will not hit the open market. They'll figure out a way. And then Detroit has Jared Goff. And if you have Jared Goff, is Jared Goff your long-term solution? Or if you could draft Will Levis or Anthony Richardson a couple of years from now, hand the ball to them. And, if they're willing to take that coaching, which, again, leaves the Raiders at 7th pick in the first round, and the Panthers at 9 behind those 6. And maybe all the quarterbacks are gone by then. This leads to the drama we love, right? The drama we love.
Man.
Who's going where? Who's going to have to trade up with the Bears or Cardinals to get the quarterback? How much are they willing to give up to go there?
And we're still waiting on Aaron Rodgers. Every year it's somebody, we're waiting on Russell Wilson. We're waiting on Aaron Rodgers.
Frank Reich is in Carolina. Doug Peterson, Frank Reich, they
Yeah,
coached
Frank
together in
Reich.
Philadelphia. Frank Reich is in Carolina, fired by crazy owner with the Colts, Jim Irsay, right in the middle of hired Jeff Saturday. Poor Sam Ellinger got caught up in the middle of that whole thing. All right, we'll come back. This says, can the NFL void that contract if Washington tries to do that? Well, I think that's a fair question. I don't know. I asked that. I posed that in my own head.
No, because of Deshaun Watson got it. So you can't be like, no one's ever got it
Well,
before.
I guess the question I would have with Daniel Snyder is, would the league step in
with his ownership?
You're about to sell this team.
I thought his wife had some
Is
ownership
he?
in that.
I don't think he's going to have to sell it anymore, though.
Oh, yes, he has to sell it. I mean, these two are the bickering going back and forth between these billionaires is he wants to be cleared of all wrongdoing ahead of sale. So when the books get opened, that all the stuff that's in there, they can't come back after him for it. I mean, seriously. I mean, you just read the reports. He's got to sell the team. The 31 other owners are ready to take the team away from him. This is all building, but that's why I say if the Washington football team tried to make a power move for Lamar Jackson, would the league step in and say, yo, you can't do this right now. You're about to sell this ball club. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that, but it would certainly put the feet to the league's fire. I mean, the fire to the league's feet to say, that Daniel Snyder is being run out of the league, and they don't want him and they want Jeff Bezos to come in or someone else to buy the team. Remember, the Bezos team reportedly includes Jay-Z and Matthew McConaughey are a part of the Jay-Z group, which is something the NFL would love to have all that star power behind a team in our nation's capital and get rid of Daniel Snyder. I think we're in for maybe the biggest quarterback soap opera offseason of them all, Buck.
Could be.
Heck, remember last year we had Tom Brady trying to orchestrate his own deal to Miami to become a part owner. That's why the Miami Dolphins don't have a first-round draft pick in this draft in April, because they had to forfeit it because of the tampering with that they did with Tom Brady and Sean Payton last offseason. Yeah, man, this is a fun league. We'll be back. B&E with you.
Folks, Jaguar Land Rover of Austin, when is the best time to head on over there? How about today? No hassles, not time-consuming. That unique car buying experience that you deserve. And Don Snell Sr., since 1973, has been getting it done, the Snell Motor Company. They believe it is a privilege to be the provider of all of your automotive needs. While you're there, say hello to the whole gang, Cheyenne and Poppy, Brandon and pre-owned, of course, and there's that service advisors, 6 of them are waiting there just to help you with your decisions on cars or SUVs. They're the 9-time Pinnacle Award winner for overall performance in the automotive industry. They're in the top 20 in the nation. While you're there, do test drive at no obligations the Discovery Sports, the Range Rover, the F-Pace Jaguar, or the 2021 SUV of the year, the Defender. It awaits you right now. And the 2023s just keep on coming in. And folks, if you're interested in an opportunity to work for one of the greatest companies in America, give them a call today at 512-236-0000. Folks, when you're there, as I said, do test drive those wonderful automotive, beautiful cars there they have there. Jaguar, no ordinary cat, no ordinary car, and of course Land Rover, above and beyond, 1515 5th Street, Austin, Texas.
Got a lot of breaking news this morning here in the back end of the show. Saints are giving their new quarterback, Derek Carr, a new 4-year deal, according to Ian Rappaport. Terms to be released. Also, today's media day over at Austin Country Club, ACC, and that's where Jordan Uplegger is the director of the Dell Match Play event. They have announced this morning, today's media day, so the player, they do a little media press conference, and then the media, our man Bob Ballew's out there, Buck, all the media types, they get to play ACC. They get to play around the golf on that beautiful golf course.
The baby closes down on the 12th.
But this morning, Jordan Uplegger confirmed what we've already known, that this will be the last Dell Technologies Match Play event at Austin Country Club, and maybe the last Dell Match Play ever, or at least the Match Play event. But
Cantlay is coming also.
Yeah, but this will be the last one. That has been confirmed this morning by the director, that a letter has gone out to all the membership at Austin Country Club that this is the last one. So if you've never been, it comes up late in the month, then get on out there and check them out. Yeah, the top 64 players in the world head-to-head. So that will be going on. Also, Buck, as we wrap things up here on a busy Monday, can we hear Bijan Robinson? He was on NFL Network yesterday after running his 4.46 40, 215 pounds, looking smooth. Made the case for this university right here that we can see out our window down there at the 40 acres as RBU, Running Back University. Here's Bijan yesterday.
This is your platform. Tell people why Texas is officially RBU, straight from your mouth. Come on.
Yeah. So, for me, it was a great choice for me to get to Texas. But, all these guys here, just set an example, on and off the field, and Texas really does, mature you to be a great young man, obviously off the field, be a respectable young man, but then obviously be a great running back. But I think, Coach Choice, he's got like 3 of the top number 1 running backs in each class. So just seeing that, that's where I know that we're heading up to a great direction. But, all the running backs out there, give Texas a look out. You'll become great. Just, stay on the right path and, just remake the model, how it is right now.
And
call that good recruiting right there.
Well, and since that was a TV medium, behind him was a screen, and it had Ricky Williams and Earl Campbell and Deontay Foreman and
Doak
Cedric
Walker
Benson
winners.
and all the Doak Walker winners, himself, and the case for RBU. And Tashard Choice not only coached Bijan and Roshan, who would be draft picks, he also coached Jahmyr Gibbs.
Oh, yeah.
Out of Alabama, who is seen as the second running back. And props to Texas A&M's Devin Achane. How about the fourth fastest running back 40 time of all time? 4.32.
Yeah, man, he can go.
All right, we can go. And we'll be back tomorrow to talk more because a lot more stories are coming. Tomorrow afternoon is franchise tag deadline day. Got Longhorns men and women opening up playing the Big 12 tournament later in the week. We've got Longhorn spring football going through their first practice right now. Steve Sarkisian will meet the media afterwards. So, Buck, we're going to be a busy
Yes,
stretch
it
for
is.
us, and we're looking forward to it. We'll hand the baton to Light the Tower, Craig and Jeff and Cameron Parker. Thank you, Ty. Get your car fixed, my friend.
There you go.
Buck.
Stay away from the poker houses, Ty.
Stay out of the poker houses. Buck, you be part of the solution, not the problem,
Absolutely.
as you always are. Everybody have a wonderful day. If you missed any part of our show, podcast, hornfm.com.